Chapter 100. Abandoned Park. It should be said that it is an abandoned park from the past. Now all the steel equipment in the entire park has been destroyed and smashed. The huge crater in the ground with its cracks makes people shudder. Within a radius of several hundred meters or even 1,000 meters. Only one part is intact. This is where Yuan and Yotsuya Miko are. Hiss. The girl hiding behind Yuan looked at this scene timidly and couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Although she had seen the battle between Yuan and Sunyo. But the destructive power this time is obviously even more exaggerated than last time. Last time it was just to cut an abyss out of the forest. It brings visual shock to people. Although it is powerful, it is not clear how strong the slash is. But this time it's different. A huge mountain collapsed in front of her, and the vision it brought was much stronger 3 times. Amazing. Sure enough, I'm still far behind now. Yotsuya Mitsuko's eyes were full of brilliance. At this moment, Yuan was standing in front of her, and she couldn't help but be taken back to the scene at the Shanshen shrine in the past. Compared to that time, Mr. Yuan seems to have become much more powerful now. Bang! Suddenly, an unknown object fell from the air and hit the ground. After the thing rolled several times, it happened to roll to Yuan's feet. Yotsuya Miko looked at it curiously. His face suddenly turned pale. Eea! She subconsciously shrank behind Yuan. Because what comes into view is nothing else. Instead, there was only one head left of Luozhuo. The area except for the neck was missing, and his face was covered with dust and scars. Although he is recovering slowly under the influence of the surgery. But he was still embarrassed. Hey, Mr. Yuan. Rosso leaned at Yuan's feet, with a wry smile on his narrow face. My magic power is almost gone. Does this count as passing the test? Rosso said helplessly. In fact, he had no intention of taking this move from the beginning. Even the moment Yuan let go of the arrow, he immediately cut off his neck and let the curse spirit impact him and knock him away. But what he didn't expect was, I still underestimated the power of this move. Not only did it easily swallow up his attack, it was just the air wave that spread out. Let the curse spirit be crushed on the spot. Although his head was blown away, in order to protect himself from the air waves, he spent all the remaining magic power in just a few months. Well, just one head is enough to pass the level. Yuan raised his foot and stepped directly on Rosso's head, saying with a smile. He had no intention of killing Shuangsuo. The reason for doing this is just to teach the other party a lesson and test the power of his own demigod queen. It turns out, after obtaining the demigod godhead, even without the blessing of the law, the terrifying destructive power brought by the physical body alone has reached a completely different dimension. Since you survived, you are my subordinate from today on. Yuan said calmly. Although Rosso was stepped on, there was no dissatisfaction on his face. On the contrary, after hearing his assessment, the corner of his mouth couldn't help but smile. In his opinion, the strong have the right to humiliate the weak. The humiliation I suffered was nothing at all. Okay, let me recover your body first. After Yuan finished tapping the thief's rope, he casually took out the regeneration potion that he had signed in from his own king's treasure. To him, this thing works. Whether it's the built-in regeneration ability or the elixir in the king's treasure, the effect is much stronger than this regeneration potion. Might as well find a chance to use it. Bo. After Yuan uncorked the bottle, he let go of Rosso's head and sprinkled the potion directly on the other person's head. Soon, under the influence of the strong vitality emerald green liquid, Rosso's body recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it didn't take long for his limbs and body to grow back. Even the clothes on his body were casually passed by Yuan. Easily restore it. Rosso noticed the changes in his body and was extremely surprised. He couldn't analyze the ingredients in this bottle of potion at all. It was like levels from different dimensions. If the power behind Yuan Jun, if such a potion can be mass-produced, there is no doubt that it is the most powerful organization hidden behind the world. Rosso quickly got up from the ground. He patted the dust on his shoulders, with the same smile on his face. Lord, if you have any command, please do so. In addition, I also prepared a thank you gift. Rosso changed his title and his tone was extremely respectful. He glanced at Yotsuya Miko calmly. Yuan nodded and said calmly. Let's talk about the gift later. It's almost time to go back now. I haven't eaten dinner yet. Please send the gifts to my room later. He naturally knew what gift Luosuo wanted to give. There was also a slight expectation in my heart. After all, he currently prioritizes receiving information about the future world line. Basically, it was all knowledge related to mystery. As for the fate of ordinary people, he didn't have time to read so much. Say it. Yuan turned around and left. Yotsuya Maiko kept up with the young man's pace. When his eyes fell on the handsome and tall figure in front of him, he pursed his lips and said, I took out my cell phone and sent a message asking for leave to my family. Said she was going to spend the night at Yuan's house. This time. My mother quickly responded and agreed. By the way, let her protect herself. The earth was shaking not long ago, and just looking at it would scare people to death. Humph. The corners of Yotsugamiko's mouth turned up slightly. If my mother knew that the blow just now was delivered by Yuan, I don't know how shocked she would be. Yes. Raso quickly agreed and left the place. When the crowds of people swarmed over and saw in their eyes, only this ruins were left. School of Magic. People such as Iru Glass, Nokshu Masamichi, Raku Anji Yoshinobu, and Diva and others all gathered in the conference room at this time. Especially Nokshu Gendeo and Lian Temple Kashin. Both of them frowned at this time, their expressions solemn. 0138031009 Fila 19339345 Damn. Can't you just calm down for a little while? Atsushi Kusakabe held his forehead with one hand. His face was full of helplessness. In fact, several other people had similar thoughts. Well, it's basically confirmed that Yuan did it. After all, apart from him, there is probably no one in the world who can issue such a terrifying and powerful attack. Nokshu Gendeo took a deep breath of air and said in a deep voice. To be honest, you can tell just from the video that the power of that blow has exceeded the limit of the magician. An attack like this that can easily destroy mountains with one strike. 0, please give me flowers. Even Gojo Satoru is far from capable. How about we reveal Yuan's identity? The singer asked hesitantly. No. We still don't know Yuan's attitude. Even if we want to announce it, at least we have to test it. Otherwise, I might make him unhappy. Then the gain outweighs the loss. Nokshu Gendeo decisively refused without hesitation. He doesn't want to lose everything just by making one mistake. The strength that Yuan has shown so far, even if all the special level team members are added together, there is no way he can be his opponent. Not to mention the other person's back. I'm afraid there is another very powerful organization. Just thinking about this is enough to make people suffocate. If Yuan is provoked, the entire magic world will be destroyed. But we cannot remain silent. The phenomenon caused by the subsequent impact of this time will probably be no worse than we originally expected. There must be a general explanation to the public as soon as possible. Lian Temple Jiashin looked at a few people and said seriously. However, at this moment, he glanced around and his brows suddenly furrowed. 0 Masamichi, where did that guy Gojo Satoru go? As the most powerful face in the magic world today. Although far inferior to Yuan, he is undoubtedly the number one in the field of spell power, and his status is very important. You don't even come to attend a meeting of this level. Heard asking. Nokshu Gendeo's face was even more helpless. That kid, what he just said on the phone is that he wants to see the destroyed mountain range. Just hung up the phone on me. Furthermore, his tone is quite excited. It is estimated that it will be impossible for him to come to the meeting in a short period of time. Since last time Yuan exposed the mythical weapon aspect, Gojo Satoru became more and more attracted to Yuan. No matter what happened, he will never miss anything about Yuan. After hearing this, a serial number appeared on the heads of Lian Temple Jiashen and Ansongji. That BD. Damn it. He still disappears from such a meeting. He thinks he is a little kid who ran away from home. Ansongji said angrily. He raised his fist and hit the table hard. There was no good solution for a while. When several people were silent. At this time, the family member who has never spoken has never spoken. At this time, she lazily held a cigarette for herself, took out a lighter, lit it and took a puff. Hey, that's it. How about just setting that one to be the strongest? The strongest being in the entire world of magic, but without taking the initiative to reveal his identity, wouldn't it be the best of both worlds? Irie Glass said in a calm tone. Anyway, if you have the ability, it is not difficult to find Yuan. But as long as their high school didn't take the initiative to expose it, the blame for this matter should not be thrown off their heads. After all, at least in name, Yuan is indeed known as a super magician. After thinking about it, several other people also felt that this was a good idea. Noxua Jendeo made a decisive decision immediately. Okay, just do as you said. Leave the rest to the government and I believe they will take care of it. P.S. Please vote for me. Please give me a review. Please subscribe. I'll save my manuscript tonight, and I'll make more than 100 million. Tomorrow. Chapter 101. Mountain Ruins. Endless gravel and potholes, a hell-like scene appeared in front of him. Trees and shrubs were shattered by the impact and torn into countless pieces, blown into wave-like shapes by the wind. Only the biting autumn wind blew through the ruins. The sun suddenly fell on the desolate ruins, and the sound of cracking stones was still clear in the autumn wind. Gojo Satoru, wearing a high school uniform, stood quietly in the center of the ruins. Is this Yuan-kun's full power? Gojo Satoru watched with blue eyes and sighed softly. In terms of destructive power alone, it has completely surpassed my torture. Even among modern weapons, I'm afraid only nuclear weapons can be compared without any exaggeration. The current Yuan is undoubtedly a humanoid nuclear weapon. And it's even more terrifying than nuclear weapons. After all, nuclear weapons require multiple procedures to unlock and launch, and they will be detected almost immediately and may be intercepted. But Yuan is completely different. He only relied on his own strength to reach this point. And what's even scarier is this blow, maybe not necessarily his full strength. Originally, I wanted to come here to see the extent of the damage and to gauge Yuan's strength. Unexpectedly, it was me who saw the gap clearly. Gojo Satoru smiled bitterly and said 663. Deeply bury the idea of discussing with each other in your heart. If I were to face Yuan now, I might not even be qualified to be a toy. He patted the dust on his shoulders and was about to get up. Suddenly I heard a female voice laughing softly in my ear. Isn't this Gojo Satoru? Sure enough, you came to see this too. Gojo Satoru turned around after hearing this. An elegant and cheerful blonde woman smiled, her waist-length hair falling behind her, letting the wind blow. The figure of Gojo Satoru was reflected in those beautiful burgundy eyes, with a smile on his lips. It is none other than 99 Yuki, one of the 4 great masters of magic in the world of magic today. Ah, you're back. After hearing this, Gojo Satoru raised his hand and scratched his head, with a little helplessness on his face. For this person who indirectly caused his best friend to degenerate into a curse master. Although he doesn't resent the other party. But it is impossible to make such an intimate greeting. Of course, after all, such interesting things happened here. I thought it was just a matter of the curse being announced, but I didn't expect to see such a scene. Juju Yuji raised her beautiful eyes and smiled slightly. She thought that the trouble caused by the special curse spirit was already big enough. But when she saw the arrow piercing the sky with her own eyes, she realized how superficial her thoughts were. Compared to this scene, what does a mere curse spirit mean? Able to perform this attack? It is definitely not something that the so-called curse spirit can do. In her impression, even Gojo Satoru was completely unable to perform such a blow. Gojo Satoru, you should know who did this, right? Juju Yuji glanced indifferently, waiting for the reply from the other party. She didn't know what was going on inside the college. Because she believes that what high schools do is symptomatic treatment, and she wants to treat the world fundamentally. Instead of hunting cursed spirits, I want to create a world where cursed spirits will not be produced. So all the time. His relationship with the Conjuration College was not good, and he only came back after learning that the curse spirit was announced. Remember the 5th super-level magician in the world of magic just now? Gojo Satoru did not answer directly. But there was no hidden intention in his words. After all, it is very easy for a super magician like 99 Yuki to investigate the truth behind it. You mean, Yuan? Juju Yuji's eyes flashed slightly. In other words, the rumor that you were defeated by that young man, Gojo Satoru, is it true? There was a hint of surprise in her tone. According to the information released so far, Yuan is just a boy who looks to be in his teens. He actually has such powerful power, how on earth does he do it? Heard asking. Gojo Satoru had a slight smile on his face. Yes, I was defeated by him, but it's nothing worth worrying about. After all, I couldn't even force him out with all his strength. It's still too far behind, said. Gojo Satoru began to tell. From the time he personally tested Yuan to the time when the other party easily killed Sunyo's finger. When Juju Yuji heard this, he was shocked. This Yuan is too strong, right? And when she learned that the other party was not a magician, her eyes suddenly froze. Not a conjurer. Really or not, are there other extraordinary ways in the world? 99 Yuki stared at Gojo Satoru with serious eyes. If this is the case, it can indeed explain why Yuan was able to crush him. After all, the power systems of different extraordinary levels may have different judgments on strength. That's right. From the time I personally witnessed him taking action, he has become stronger and stronger. He is still in the period of rapid growth and strength. I am afraid that even within the organization, his status is very special. Gojo Satoru clenched his fists, his eyes showing enthusiasm and excitement. Compared with the first time he played against Yuan, his strength has improved to a certain extent. But compared to the growth of the other party, not worth mentioning. Even Gojo Satoru said that. I'm afraid that's not a lie. 99 Yuki's beautiful eyes were full of interest. Her goal has always been to create a world without cursed spirits. Now, the sudden extraordinary power of different systems may bring her new hints. In that case, do you want me to invite Yuan? Ask him if he is willing to come to the high school as a guest. He wouldn't refuse an invitation from a beautiful woman like me, right? 99 Yuki winked playfully. In her original camera, there are two ways to create a world without cursed spirits. The first is to remove the curse from human beings, and the second is to allow all human beings to control the curse. Because magicians do not produce curse spirits, if all human beings become magicians, there will be no curse. But it is far from easy to do this. Let's talk about this. I have already arranged it for someone else, who is also a beautiful woman. Gojo Satoru shrugged upon hearing this and smiled casually. Juju Yuji was slightly surprised when he heard this, and said curiously. Who is it? Could it be Glass? Of course not. In your image, there should also be that first-level conjurer who is jealous of money, right? Hearing this, a figure flashed in Juju's mind. Hey? It's not cheap to hire her. Yuki Juju raised his eyebrows and said with a chuckle, how much did it cost you to get her to agree? Ming Ming, former auxiliary supervisor of the Tokyo Metropolitan Conjuring College and a first-level conjurer. He is now a freelance magician and owns shares in many companies in Japan. After graduating from high school, the magician who has been engaged in personal activities can be said to be a well-known miser in the magic world. As long as there is enough price. Basically, she would not refuse anything asked of her. 50 million yen, anyway, it comes from the legacy of the conservative old man. I haven't made much money over the years. Gojo Satoru spread his hands. He doesn't plan to touch the mission funds he has saved over the years. The original conservatives had money anyway. It's enough to come from those guys. Juju Yuji pursed his lips when he heard this, and said with a slight smile in his eyes. Now Ming Ming is at a loss for being in contact with such a terrible person. The price charged is a bit too low. At this time, on the official forum, a brand new announcement was announced, instantly attracting the attention of many people. Explanation for the unexpected mountain collapse in the suburbs of Tokyo. Content: not long ago, a mountain collapse occurred in the suburbs of Tokyo. It was actually an accident that occurred when the strongest person in the magic world was exterminating the spirit. Please do not panic. The government will ensure your safety. Please start to resume work one after another. Next, spellcasters will be dispatched to carry out ghost removal work to ensure the safety of civilians. For the Neon official government, what they fear most is not actually the proliferation of cursed spirits. It's the decline in productivity caused by the overflow of cursed spirits, the shutdown of the entire factory, etc. Compared to personal safety, they pay more attention to these existences that can generate benefits. Ordinary people are just screws in operation. However, such a short announcement was full of perfunctory, which many people could not accept. The strongest existence in the world of magic. That must be one of the several super-level magicians. Really or not, it would be too anxious to ask us to rework it. Oh, it's really time to go back and make money. Looking on the bright side, at least Tokyo now has the protection of the strongest magician. 0.0 can definitely develop better, right? I've changed my job. Recently, the Pangxing cult suddenly appeared. Not only does it offer good remuneration, but it also has the protection of a magician. It's much more comfortable than staying in the government. Ah! I have heard about the Pangxing sect recently. It seems to be cooperating with the Sagong Zaibatsu. No wonder they are rich. I'll go take a look in a few days. Is there really a magician? In less than a day, a lot of news about Pangxing sect has emerged on the internet. Some of them are flows specially arranged by the Shinomiya Zaibatsu, and some are tap water from all over the country. Let Pangxing cult add fuel to the flames as much as possible. After all, it seems like such a good opportunity. If you miss it, God knows how long you will have to wait until next time. The Pangxing sect, which is in the period of expansion, naturally accepts all comers. At the same time, build the main hall of each stronghold. Let people change the object they can rely on when facing curses from the government to Pansingu. Amidst this turmoil, the Shinomiya family was naturally not idle. Almost immediately after Shinomiya Kagaya returned home from school. Then I received news from the owner of the family, Sagong Yanan. Attend a family meeting. P.S. Please vote for me. Please give me a review. Please subscribe. The first big chapter is here. There are 2 more chapters. There will be more than 10,000 updates. Chapter 102. The Shinomiya family. Sagong Yanan sat quietly on the main seat. 4 other family members arrived after being notified. The eldest son, Huang Guang, the 4th son, the 2nd son, Qinglong, the 4th son, the 3rd son, Yunying, and the eldest daughter, Kagaya, all took their seats. Shinomiya Yanan, who looked to be in his 50s just now, glanced around with his majestic eyes. Well, now that everyone is here, then this meeting should almost begin. Sagong Yanan said calmly. As soon as he finished speaking, serious expressions appeared on the faces of the other people. Even including the 4 ordinary Qinglong and Shinomiya Yunying who were just idle. Although their rights within the family are not as good as those of the eldest son. But this time, obviously the whole country is in turmoil, and the Shinomiya family will naturally be greatly affected. You must have read the news about the curse spirit and the curse master. To put it bluntly, in the next period of time, the number of curse spirits will appear on a large scale. Ordinary people are generally defenseless. While he was talking, he picked up the files that had been placed on the table and threw them directly to the people in front of him. After Sagong Huang Guang and others opened the file, the words above came into their eyes, which shocked them. These are the latest detailed information about today's magic world, including major spell families and spell masters. Browse for a moment. Sagong Huang Guang put down the document halfway and groaned. Father, maybe what we need to do now is to let the conjurers serve us as much as possible. I think among the first level spellcasters 09, Nanamai Kento and this one named Ming Ming are a good choice. The former once gave up his career as a magician, obviously because he needed money. The latter are professional as mercenaries, won his words. Immediately, Sagong Qinglong and Sagong Yunying glanced at each other. While the 2 of them were cursing secretly in their hearts, they both laughed. As expected of a big brother. Brother's idea is good. Father, what do you think? Although the 2 of them also had this idea, they didn't expect that Huang Guang, the 4th officer, would take advantage of them first. But now that the country is in turmoil, recruiting more spellcasters can also ensure your own safety. So there wasn't much opposition. Extremely stupid. Sagong Yanan snorted coldly and glanced at Sagong Huang Guang. Don't draw conclusions so hastily, there is no calmness at all. You are the eldest son. Sagong Huang Guang's face suddenly stiffened, and he felt quite depressed. But it was hard to refute anything, so I had to read the content at the back of the document honestly. And on the final document, it records the items and processes of the last Pangxing cult auction. A series of dazzling array of powerful props immediately shocked Sagong Huang Guang's face. Especially the last portion of the life-extending water made him extremely greedy. No one would dislike his longer life. What does father mean? Let us go to the Pangxing sect to buy it. Sagong Huang Guang coughed lightly and said calmly, if that's the case, I can be responsible for this matter. This is a good opportunity to express yourself. For Sagong Huang Guang, naturally he will not choose to give up. But in the face of his inquiry, Shinomiya Yanan looked at Shinomiya Kagaya. Kagaya, how did you and Yuan-kun get along last time? Shinomiya Kagaya sat on the chair, her cheeks turned slightly red after hearing this. since the last time the true nature of his heart was revealed. She didn't know how to face Yuan. Moreover, the other party seems to be very busy on weekdays, and as a senior, she has no chance to interact with him. Shinomiya Kaguya hesitated for a moment, then answered softly. Well, it should be quite enjoyable. After receiving this reply, Shinigong Yana nodded with satisfaction, and then looked at the girl seriously. I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you with this matter. Of course, our Shinomiya family will never let Mr. Yuan suffer. We will also cooperate with Pangxing sect in all subsequent actions. Sigong Yanan gave serious instructions. The main reason why he did this was to create opportunities for Kaguya to get along with Yuan. Okay. Shinomiya Kaguya nodded obediently. But when she thought about meeting Yuan again, she couldn't help but become nervous. Subconsciously grabbing her knees and skirts, she thought seriously about what clothes she should wear to face Yuan. By the way, society is not very safe recently. Kaguya, please stay at Yuan's house temporarily until the social situation stabilizes. Sigong Yanan seemed to have remembered something and gave one more instruction. Ah! Shinomiya Kaguya's body suddenly froze on the spot. She looked at her father in disbelief, not expecting to receive such an order. Afraid of social instability. Please. This is the Shinomiya family. Just talking about the security measures, it can be said to be foolproof. Although her ability to deal with cursed spirits is a bit poor, she also has corresponding spiritual tools. Why was he thrown out? Sigong Yanan looked on expressionlessly. I sighed slightly in my heart. He already knew about the recent events at the Yukinashita family. The two girls have already settled in Yuan's house, and Kaguya must not fall behind. Otherwise, it would be really unreasonable to say anything if someone comes from behind. Okay, that's it. Kaguya, please step back. Shinomiya Yanan said in a calm tone without intending to explain anything more. Shinomiya Kaguya stood up from the chair in silence, bowed, and then turned around and left. Her mind was in turmoil. You know, I have never lived in a boys' home in my life. This kind of thing is too obscene. No. We must bring Hayasaka with us. After Kaguya left, Shinomiya Huangguang's face looked a little gloomy. Father, isn't it inappropriate to leave such an important matter to Kaguya alone? To know so far. He hasn't even had time to meet Yuan yet. And this time, a major matter related to the entire Shinomiya family was actually handed over to Shinomiya Kaguya. Apparently his rights are being gradually handed over. This is obviously unacceptable. Oh? Is there anything inappropriate? Sigong Yan glanced indifferently and snorted with dignity, it's not your turn to make decisions in this family now, do you understand? Or do you wish that this old man like me would die? Hear this. Sigong Huangguang waved his hands quickly, no, just follow what father said. The other two brothers were secretly happy to see their eldest brother deflated. His usual arrogant look. This time, I finally hit the iron plate directly. Okay, you should go back now, you have nothing to do here. After Sigong Yanan finished speaking, several other people also left one after another. After leaving the mansion, Sigong Huangguang quickly returned to his mansion and villa. He sat on the sofa and clenched his fists angrily, the yin in his eyes clearly visible. That old immortal thing. At such a time, you still have to come out to cause trouble. It is simply unreasonable. No, Kaguya must be restrained. Although it is unlikely that the Shinomiya family's property will be passed on to a girl, what if the old man loses his mind and goes crazy? Sigong Huangguang snorted coldly. In his eyes, the Shinomiya family must be his sooner or later. Kaguya Shinomiya, who appeared out of nowhere, was lucky enough to hit 910 times with a special magician. But as far as he knows, even top-level conjurers are not invincible. When facing the army, it is still possible to accidentally suffer a big loss. Of course, Sigong Huangguang didn't want to provoke a super conjurer unless it was absolutely necessary. Especially the first few hours. He had just witnessed the collapse of the mountains with his own eyes, and he understood that these guys were monsters. Sigong Huangguang groaned and decided to play it safe first. It seems that we still have to start with the power of Haoai. After being an undercover agent for so long, it's almost time to make a difference. Within a short time of the government announcement, the story about the collapse of mountains and the true identity of the most powerful magician has become a hot search topic and spread wildly on the internet. The most powerful magician, why can't the official say it clearly? That's right. Who did it? Obviously he is afraid of offending others. Doesn't this magician have a bad temper? SHHH. Don't say bad things about others, or you want to get shot too. Mine. Private Marseille. By the way, that arrow is really powerful. It's even more powerful than a cruise missile, right? Have you ever seen a cruise missile that can blow up a mountain? This is a head-to-head encounter. The missile can only take a shower. Hiss. It's so powerful. I really want to become this strong. Anyone who has witnessed that arrow will know that the penetrating power of this arrow is just like that of a monster. Under the continuous explosion of panic and discussion, the trend of curses is also rising sharply. Now, Yuan, who was being discussed wildly on the internet, returned home in a luxury car. Just opened the door. I saw him greeting me at the door. Two beautiful girls specially dressed up. Chapter 103. Welcome home. Yukinashita Yukino chuckled. She was wearing a black dress. The slim cut perfectly outlines her graceful figure, making her waist curve even more charming. The hem of the skirt hangs down to the knees, revealing the slender legs, which are long and straight. The black dress is also dotted with some golden beads, adding a touch of elegance to her. And on her side was Yangno. Not to mention too much. Her shoulder-length hair caught her eyes just right, and the girl was wearing light blue clothes, and her fair thighs were clearly visible under the skirt. Yukinashita Yono's face is full of confidence and an elegant smile. Welcome, the food is ready. Let's eat first. After witnessing the last battle with Sunyo, both of them understood. Yuan's power is absolutely beyond imagination. And the other party is strong and indifferent in that picture. The girl's heart couldn't help but tremble. Certainly. The most important thing is the young man's outstanding temperament and handsome face. Even among the people they have met, he is undoubtedly the third. Harano caught a glimpse of Yotsuya Miko. Good evening, Miss Jianzi, I've been out of school for so long, let's have dinner first. She said calmly, with a sweet smile on her face. If you want to stay at night, you can tell the maid in advance. Hear this. Yotsuya Mitsuko was stunned for a moment and quickly reacted. I understand, thank you. She responded with flushed cheeks. My impression of Yangno suddenly became much better. Someone gave her 1 billion yen and she was still so polite. Is she being a little too petty? Although he stayed at Yuan's house without permission. But with Mashiro taking care of it, it should be fine, right? Well, I'm back. Yuan replied with a chuckle and walked into the living room. Wait until he reaches the table. But he saw Shina Mashiro in her pajamas, holding a piece of tempura with chopsticks and stuffing it into her mouth. The corners of her fair mouth were stained with crumbs of grease. The Mercury maid next to her was holding a tissue ready to wipe. After seeing Yuan, his eyes lit up and he waved to him happily. But the mouth showed no sign of stopping. Jianzi looked at this scene with black lines on his head. When Yangno was about to say something, he was interrupted by Gentai. It's okay, we are all a family, let's eat first. He said with a gentle smile. Soon, the group of people sat down to enjoy dinner. The LCD TV hanging on the wall nearby was playing the latest news. It is reported that the mountains that collapsed not long ago have been certified by experts. At this stage, no missile can achieve such power. Perhaps the power of this most powerful magician will be beyond imagination. And judging from the videos circulating on the internet, what caused this damage was a huge arrow, but there is currently no sign of this arrow in the ruins. Yang Nai sat next to Yuan. Unconsciously, he focused his gaze on Yuan beside him. Yukino also glanced cautiously. Feeling the gazes from the two of them, Yuan smiled and said, You must be the reason why the 3 mountains collapsed, right? After hearing this, Yangno and Yukino were still hesitating. Mashiro Shina, who had just eaten tempura, nodded curiously without hesitation. Yet, when that mountain collapsed, the sound was really loud. I thought it was an earthquake. Although Mashiro knows very little about common sense in life. But in a country like Neon, earthquakes are commonplace. Yukinashita Yukino and Harano blinked. The faces all showed the same curiosity. After all, the spread of videos on the internet is overwhelming. The two of them had also seen the battle between Yuan and Sunyo, but it was still slightly inferior to the shock caused by the collapse of the entire mountain. This is what I saw with my own eyes. The shock is much stronger than that of a simple video. It was indeed me who did this. After all, my hands are a little itchy, not to mention that for me, destroying the entire mountain is not a big deal. Yuan said with a chuckle. In fact, he had no intention of using the weapon to kill hundreds of heads. After all, doing this is just a cannon to swat mosquitoes. If you want to teach Rosso a lesson, you can use different methods. But since they are already demigods, after all, you have to take time to warm up in advance. As for the changed future, it will also be clearly captured by the omniscient and omnipotent star. So he has nothing to worry about. Today's him. There is no longer any need to worry about the existence of the country as in the past. As soon as the words fell, Yukinashita Yukino and Yangano's pupils suddenly shrank, and they felt a little excited. Although there have been speculations for a long time. But when Yuan really admitted it, the two of them still couldn't help but feel a sense of absurdity. A terrifying monster that easily destroys mountains by itself. No matter how you look at it. None of them got along with a teenage student who was still in school. Among them, Yangno couldn't help but asked curiously. Then Mr. Yuan, with your current strength, wouldn't it be possible to conquer the world? It's not as scary as nuclear weapons, right? At this time, Yuan picked up a piece of meat and ate it, and answered casually. The current modern technology alone cannot be of use to me, but even controlling a country is a troublesome matter. Running a country is not such a simple matter. Although Yuan has the assistance of the omniscient and omnipotent star, he can control a country in the most convenient way as long as he wants. But this kind of thing, on the contrary, it is the least cost-effective. Compared with the plan he is currently executing, as long as it is completed, he will control all countries. This may even be their willing choice. Amazing! Yukinashita Yukino blinked her beautiful eyes and sighed in wonder. She could not imagine what it would be like to control a country. After all, it was her own goal. She just wants to get involved in politics and participate in some interesting things. The level of the country is really too big for her. The expressions on the faces of the other people were similar. Only Mashiro nodded in agreement. It is indeed a super troublesome matter. There are so many things in a country, and it is not cost-effective at all to involve them. I feel like painting is easier. Regarding Mashiro's statement, several other girls had a look of helplessness on their faces. This is probably only Mashiro who is a genius in painting. There will be such thoughts. However, several other girls have also become accustomed to Mashiro's different brain circuits from ordinary people. If this attack falls into the city, it is estimated that an entire area of the city will be completely destroyed. No wonder there is a lot of discussion about this matter on the internet. Yatsuya Maiko sighed. At that time, I saw such a terrifying scene of landslides and ground cracks. Her first thought was fear. Well, they don't dare to say wild things online anymore. After all, no one wants to be visited at home, right? Yukinashita Yukino said with a chuckle. Lord Yuan's current intimidation power alone can be said to be unprecedented. With his own power, he has become the most feared person in the entire country. It is no wonder that even the official does not dare to announce Yuan's name easily. I'm afraid of retaliation. Yangno nodded in agreement, and then added, but as for people overseas, most people don't believe this. They basically think it was synthesized by AI. I don't trust the curse spirit either. People overseas cannot believe these supernatural things because they have not witnessed them with their own eyes. The debate on the internet is now in full swing. Yuan just raised his eyebrows when he heard this. It doesn't matter. After a few months, they will definitely believe it by then. No, it won't take months, or even just a few weeks. The corners of his mouth raised slightly. Now that he has become a demigod, the equation between magic power and curse power conversion has been completely completed. The rest is through experimentation. As well as the integration and expansion of Tianyuan barrier, once completed, the formal conversion of mantra and magic power will begin. The impact will be unprecedented. Hear Mr. Yuan's words. Several girls looked at each other with some curiosity in their hearts. But he didn't choose to ask more questions. After all, this was Yuan's personal matter, and he must have his own reasons for doing so. Then they only need to support silently behind the scenes. Soon, the group had dinner. I'm going back to my room, Yuan said with a smile. He took a moment to return to his room. I plan to go and see if Rosso's gift has arrived. Since it was carefully selected by the other party, the gift must not be bad. PS Today's update is late, I'm very sorry. Please give me monthly tickets. Please give me flowers. Please give me follow-up subscriptions. High energy tips for the next chapter, prepare to show off the most powerful Noble Phantasm, the main plot and daily life will continue to advance, and new characters will soon appear. Chapter 104. Wait until Yuan returns to the room. A dark, exquisite suitcase was placed accurately in the center of the room. There was a bit of the scent of the curse spirit remaining above, and it was obviously the low-level curse spirit sent by the Raso sect through the wall. This is also specifically allowed by Yuan. Otherwise, just a low-level curse spirit would be easily wiped out by Durandal in minutes. Yuan stretched out his hand and placed it on the cold metal lock. After easily dispelling the curse spirit above, he opened the suitcase directly. Then, what came into his eyes was a petite girl with a petite figure and a neat appearance. He wore a beret on his head and a walking stick on his body. She has the style of a young lady from a wealthy family. From the details visible to the naked eye, it can be clearly seen that the leg under the girl's left knee is a prosthetic leg. The girl's fair cheeks were tightly closed with beautiful eyes, and she had obviously fallen into a deep sleep. It's Iwanaga Kodoko, Raso picked a good target. Yuan raised his eyebrows and said calmly. For him who understands the past and future of this planet, the girl in front of him is not that strange, she is just that beautiful girl who is good at reasoning. When he was 11 years old, he was abducted by monsters called Weird End Monsters. At the cost of losing one eye and one foot, it became their magical work of wisdom. From then on, always accepting requests from weirdos and solving all kinds of troubles. In fact, these weird things are just evil spirits and ghosts that are still rational. 163 Although most ghosts and evil spirits are weak in strength, there are still very few that are different and become different existences. And it survived for a long time. Since Iwanaga Kodoko can be recognized by these existences, it is naturally because she also has unique talents. Otherwise, Suo wouldn't have chosen her as a gift. But for Yuan, if he wanted such a gift, he could easily get it. Yuan continued to look inside the box, stretched out his hand again, and took out the remaining item inside. These are a few fingers that have been specially sealed. There are 6 in total. Only the last finger is left uncollected. Judging from the breath leaking from above, there is no doubt that it is that guy Sunyo. Sunyo's finger, this thing is just right. It's almost time to restore Sunyo to his prime, and then carry out the first transformation of mantra and magic power. Yuan raised the corners of his mouth and said with a chuckle. Although the omniscient and omnipotent star is basically infallible, he still plans to experiment first. Because this ability is also regarded as omniscient and omnipotent in the true sense. Even if you can witness the future and the past. But the ability to perceive the current changes is very weak. Think of this. He glanced at Kodoko Iwanaga, who was still inside the box, Ajay. At least in the next few hours, the other party should not wake up. Let's take advantage of this period of time to deal with Sunyo. If it drags on any longer, it will be boring. Well, in that case, there is only one last Sunyo finger left. Just ask Gojo Satoru to send it over. Yuan touched his chin and groaned. Anyway, the Magic College will definitely not reject your request. He easily opened his phone and sent a text message. Turn around and push directly into the room. Just leave. In the laboratory. Inside the pitch-black sphere placed on the stand, the two-faced Neo souls are located within it. His spirit is shown wearing a white kimono and wooden geta. Sitting cross-legged on the ground, holding his cheek with one hand, his eyes were cold. Damn you brat! When I return to my prime, I will never lose to this guy. But having said that, it is indeed a beautiful slash. Although Yang Mian Sunyo doesn't want to admit it. But judging from the original slash, the opponent even surpassed me in this field. But in the final analysis, it is just relying on the power of weapons. If he didn't have those weapons from mythology, he must have won. But as the saying goes, the winner is the king and the loser is the enemy. There is no point in worrying about this matter now. Creaking one by one, there was a sudden sound of the door opening. Yuan's figure walked straight into the room. He placed his eyes on the black ball and said with a chuckle. How about it? You're quite used to living there, right? Look what good stuff I found again. This should have belonged to you in the past, right? He lifted those fingers teasingly. There are 7 fingers in total. after he informed the Conjuration High School of his needs. Almost immediately, the hidden finger was handed over. Gojo Satoru had no objections to this. Yuan was naturally not surprised by the decision made by the college. After all, his current strength is much stronger than that of Sunyo in his heyday. Perceive the power of the same source. Sunyo's eyes flickered slightly and he snorted coldly. Kid, don't think you can expect anything from me if you get the rest of my fingers. Anyway, in the end, it's nothing more than simple death. He was never afraid of death. In other words, he has always fought as he pleased. So as long as it's a hearty battle, it doesn't matter even if you die. The only thing he regrets, is that he was not able to fight this brat in his prime. Although the results may not change. But he felt. When you regain your full strength, you will never be defeated as easily as last time. As if aware of his inner thoughts. Yuan's brows raised slightly. Do you think you can last longer under my hand? I'm afraid I can only tell you that my strength is completely different from before. A clown like you, can't even take one of my blows. He wasn't just talking nonsense. But after reaching the realm of demigods, the power used was already at the level of laws. The upper limit of the power of using the Noble Phantasm has also been further increased. By the way, you remember that subordinate named Li Mei, he didn't even beat the girl under my command. Even their Mei has mastered the realm. And the girl has only become a magician for less than a month. What qualifications does a toy like you have to fight against me? Yuan sneered. He had no intention of fulfilling Sunyo's last wish. After all, he was not a philanthropist. But it's still very satisfying to do things like murder and heart-wrenching. Hear this. Liang Mi and Sunyo also fell into silence slightly. He was a little surprised that Li Mei could survive until 1,000 years later. But this kid has no reason to lie to him. In other words, with Li Mei's strength, he can't defeat a girl who has just mastered the power. Even when you have already mastered the field, the gap is too big, right? First. Liang Mi and Sunyo regretted his sitting in a well and looking at the sky. He clenched his fists slightly unwillingly, sat in the black ball, and stared at Yuan seriously. I'm afraid you didn't just want to tell me this when you came here this time, right? Since I brought the remaining 7 fingers here, I must be doing something. Well, I plan to help you restore the state of 20 fingers. Yuan did not shy away and said with a slight smile, then through the transformation spell, your existence will be transformed from curse power into pure magic energy. To put it simply, I want you to die. Hear this. Liang Mi and Sunyo stared at Yuan, his pride belonging to the king of spells 1,000 years ago, preventing him from lowering his head easily. Death is okay. Sunyo gritted his teeth. But I want to know, what your true strength is like. Just let me see your strongest blow. I will admit that I am just a mortal who was not born in your era. Chapter 105. Not enough. Yuan objected unceremoniously. Just because of your humble life, Sunyo, you want to see the strongest blow? This is too cheap for a demigod. Does Sunyo admit that he is a mortal? It has no value to him either. After being rejected, Liang Mi and Sunyo fell into silence. He didn't expect that his own death wouldn't be enough in exchange for witnessing this blow. But it is precisely because of this that my heart becomes more and more eager. This is the strongest blow. How far can it be achieved? Sunyo's eyes were filled with strong desire. He said in a deep voice word for word. I can be your slave. Be your subordinate for the rest of my life and obey any orders. It doesn't matter if I die at any moment. Liang Mi and Sunyo gritted his teeth and said. Making such a decision is a matter of great pride for him. It is simply much more difficult than dying. Therefore, Yuan narrowed his eyes with rare interest. He knew that people like Liang Mi and Sunyo must be telling the truth. And the living two-faced Sunyo seems to be more useful than pure magic power. Although it is nothing in front of myself. But apart from him, Liang Mi and Sunyo is still quite capable. Even among magicians, only the top magicians are the opponents of this guy. The strength of most magicians is not much different from that of servants. Unless it's the 2 rituals or a freak like the Root Princess. That's about it. But the destructive power of my full blow may be beyond your imagination. Let's find a suitable occasion later. Yuan said calmly and indifferently. He reached out and directly picked up the black ball and inserted the remaining 7 fingers into it. After letting Liang Mi and Sunyo return to his 20-fingered glory. Then he threw the other party into the storage space. Subsequently, he took out his mobile phone from his pocket and sent a message in the chat group. Yuan, I'm going to the North Pole to test the power of my strongest attack. Yuan, do you want to go shopping? Arctic. In Yuan's opinion, it is a suitable place to show his strength. He can show off his strength unscrupulously, and by the way, he also wants to compare his power. The former Inkijil was just a fragment of the aftermath, causing about 12% of the sea ice in the entire Arctic Sea to disappear. If it were his full blow, the power is naturally greater than that, but how far can it be achieved? Even the predicted future is not certain. The message just went out. The Magic Family chat group suddenly became lively. Shina Mashiro, go to the North Pole? I want to go. I heard it's very beautiful there. Little bird Yuliahua, hey. For such an important thing, the evil king's true eye envoy cannot be absent. Little bird Yurika, I'll sneak out later. Baikyung-kyu, well, take me with you too. I'll just go out if I have something to do. Yoko Maiko, hey. Are you going to the North Pole? Didn't you hear that the temperature there is very cold? Is it okay for Mashiro? Maiko Yatsuya, Yuan-kun, I want to go too. For these girls, Yuan's strongest attack is something that I have always been very curious about. Because all the enemies we have faced so far have been completely unable to use the full calendar of Yuan Jun. Even a few girls in the chat group. Not long after the mountain collapse happened, I learned about it from Yatsuya Maiko. It can be regarded as a new understanding of Yuan's strength. But according to Maiko's description, from beginning to end, Mr. Yuan was just playing around. Even the final blow that destroyed the mountains was nothing to Yuan. Yuan, don't worry, I have a magical elixir that can maintain body temperature. Yuan, this bit of cold is nothing. Maiko Yatsuya, then I'm relieved. Is everyone going to gather next? Bai Yingwei, yeah, I'll take a taxi over right away. Little bird Eureka, humph, I have slipped out of the window now, and my sister can't stop me. Odori Eureka, the contractor's strongest attack is really exciting. 0, please give me flowers 00 Baikyung-kyu, I really want to see polar bears. Look at these messages. Yuan just smiled when he saw this. After he left the laboratory, he walked out of the door. Yukino and Harano were sitting in the living room playing a life or death console game. After seeing Yuan walking out of the door, the two quickly put down the controller. Good evening, Mr. Yuan. Want to come and play games together? There are a lot of new games recently. Yukino pursed her lips and said with a smile. The smile blooming on her fair cheeks is as eye-catching as the warm sun. Yuan shook his head and said calmly. I'm planning a trip to the North Pole, are you two interested in following me? If not, just stay here. If you encounter anything, just ask the maid to help you, oh hear this. The sisters Yukino and Harano were immediately stunned. They didn't expect that when Yuan opened his mouth, he would actually go to the North Pole. That freezing cold place. I've only seen it on TV, and I heard it was super cold. I go. Suano agreed directly, her beautiful eyes showing a firm look. Since Yuan would invite, he must have taken measures to keep warm. After Yang Nai reacted, he quickly agreed. She glanced at her sister with a slight frown. Why doesn't this girl know how to refuse such a dangerous thing? It was obviously enough for her to go alone. Okay. Yuan said concisely and concisely. To him, a few people are nothing. Among the king's treasures, there is a spaceship known as the Ship of Light. Arriving at the North Pole is just a matter of seconds. Certainly. There are still many gaps compared to Avalon. If Avalon is the ultimate defensive treasure, then the next one is about to appear. It is the most powerful noble phantasm of all time, the sword of deviation that tears the world apart. It can be said to be the ultimate in destructive power. P.S. The first chapter is released today, and there will be 3 more chapters to come. I always feel pain in my hands lately. Do any readers have any recommended solutions? Can it be solved by seeking traditional Chinese medicine? Chapter 106. Half an hour later. As many girls arrived, Yuan summoned the light boat. For a light boat capable of crossing the galaxy, going to the North Pole is just a piece of cake. To be honest, Yuan originally thought that the light boat was a specialty of the spirit world. After all, a light boat capable of 1,500 light-year jumps is a bit too exaggerated. But after completely controlling the omniscient and omnipotent star, he just found out. There really is such a thing as a ship of light among the king's treasures. The only pity is that due to the level of human development, the light boat at this stage is not capable of such exaggeration. After all, the king's treasure is ultimately the original book of human wisdom itself. It is also closely related to the development of human beings themselves. But something is better than nothing. Arctic. Thousands of miles of ice, thousands of miles of snow drifting. The huge glacier is as white as jade, reflecting some brilliance under the glare of the sun. Click. Point 1. The icicles on the iceberg swayed, making a harsh sound, and fell from the sky to the mainland. Set off waves of cold blue sea waves, they are constantly dissolving, and we don't know when they will completely disappear. For ordinary people, this is a forbidden place of life, which is rarely mentioned even by people in the whole world. Next moment, golden space ripples were revealed in mid-air. The light boat appeared out of thin air, its appearance covered with gorgeous golden decorations, as if it were the majesty of royal power. Like a gorgeous heavenly palace. It stands high in the sky. The light boat, which is about 10 or even 100 meters long, stands like this, facing the flying snow and birds. Like the master of the sky, unaffected by the slightest wind or snow. Wow! Is this the North Pole? The vast expanse of white is so beautiful. Yotsuya Mieko lay with her hands on the observation deck made of transparent unknown material, her eyes widened with surprise. This was her first time seeing a glacier with her own eyes. The shock brought by it is naturally completely different from the perception through the TV screen. It is indeed a beautiful place, just like the book said. Bai Yingwei stood beside Ye Yuan, his beautiful blue eyes staring at the glacier land, with a little wonder in his eyes. Even if she usually behaves calmly in class, she is still just a little girl in the end. The beauty of nature unfolds before your eyes. It's enough to make people feel emotional. Shina Mashiro yawned lazily and leaned her head back against Ye Yuan. Well, it is indeed quite beautiful. But just taking a look at it is enough to use it as painting material. With her long, silky golden hair messy, Mashiro doesn't care about the glacier, but cares more about Ye Yuan's true strength. What she wanted to paint was not just a simple glacier, but a source of soil showing all its strength. Glaciers are simply dead things. She could easily draw such a painting just by looking at it. But Ye Yuan is different. The other person is full of mystery, so she is also curious about the strongest one. What exactly will it look like? Humph. From the perspective of my evil king's true eye, it's nothing more than that. Contractor, are you planning to unleash your strongest blow here? Xiaodiao Yuliwa's hands were clasped in front of her chest, her face was full of pride and a little expectation. Like Mashiro, she also has little interest in glaciers. On the contrary, he couldn't wait for Ye Yuan to show his attack next. As for Yukinashita Yukino and Harano, the two sisters did not speak in a hurry, but looked at the girls. It seems so far. These four should be the only ones Ye Yuan is close to. Both Yangno and Suano breathed a sigh of relief. It would be okay if there were only 4 people. It's much better than having a dozen harem groups. At least they still have a chance. Well, I'm going to use my strongest attack next. The noise caused may be a bit loud. It's enough for you to stay in the light boat, otherwise I'm afraid it won't be affected. Ye Yuan chuckled and said calmly. He reached out his hand and rubbed the pure white hair in his arms. Glancing in the direction of Yukino and Yangno, he suddenly said calmly, you sisters can also chat with other people during this time. Yukinashita Yukino and Harano are quite sensible, although they still have conflicts with each other. But after accepting them together, sisterhood can get back together sooner or later. Ye Yuan was not in a hurry about this matter, turned around and walked straight out of the light boat. The cool northern lights shone on him. Standing in the wind and snow, Ye Yuan casually took out the jet black ball from the storage space. After releasing the seal of Sunyo on both sides, the other party can see the outside world clearly through the black beads. This is the North Pole that the knotweed kid calls it, right? It's really more and more curious that it needs to be carried out in such a wide range. How far will your strongest blow reach? Sunyo said in a calm tone. It was rare that there was no arrogance in his tone, only calmness about his fate and expectations for the next step. A blow is needed on this vast iceberg. How terrifying would it be? Ye Yuan had a special reaction to Liang Mi and Sunyo's words. He just stood quietly in the sky with an indifferent expression. Watch it. Let me tell you what true strength looks like. The next moment, the distortion of space concentrated in one place. When the golden brilliance rippled, a sword emerged from it. It has a hilt and a guard. But the body part of the sword is made of 3 cylinders intertwined like a chain, and the dull blades are intertwined and twisted into a spiral. This thing can no longer be called a sword because it is a treasure that appeared before the concept of sword appeared. It is also one of the top-ranked noble phantasms among a large number of noble phantasms. The deviant sword that cuts the world apart. Rumble. The moment this sword appears, it instantly attracted everyone's attention. The girls all stared at this strange sword curiously, with anticipation rising in their hearts. Only Yotsuya Miko, who had the magic eye, seemed to sense some aura, and subconsciously crouched down with her head in her hands. Her eyes welled up with classic tears. What a terrible sword! It's much scarier than anything I've ever seen before. If I keep staring, I feel like I'm going to go blind. Yotsuya Miko's violent reaction, making several other girls slightly stunned, Shina Mashiro stepped forward and rubbed Mitiko's head. If you don't cry can't you just turn off your magic eyes? Mashiro tilted his head, not quite understanding. Hear this. On the contrary, Yotsuya Miko suddenly came to his senses. It seems that she can indeed turn off the effect of the magic eye by herself. It's just that the magic eye is usually too easy to use, so I subconsciously turned on the passive one. Mashiro, you're the best. Mitsuko rushed forward and hugged Mashiro Shina, and after rubbing her hard, she regained her energy. After closing the magic eye, he raised his head again and looked outside the light boat. His eyes were filled with anticipation. At this time, the violent airflow burst out with a roar. Zi la la la. The strange sword in Yuan's hand began to rotate like a rock cutter and was enveloped by air. A series of small tornadoes were formed, and these tornadoes were violent, fast and powerful, condensed into vortices like running water, and gathered together to form 10 huge forces. The twisted air overlaps each other and converges into a more powerful pressure. Finally, it is wrapped up in the location of the sword. I saw 3 sections of the millstone-like cylinder echoing the movement of the celestial sphere. They were rubbing against each other with weight and strength that rivaled the changes in the Earth's crust, and the expanding magic power that rolled out was simply immeasurable. The air layer transcends physical boundaries, and its density rises linearly. Turned into a deadly weapon capable of cutting into pieces any object. A destructive and terrifying air wave flashed, and the shock wave carried astonishing power, destroying everything around it. Rumble. Even the aftermath caused the glacier below to roar and scream, falling into the sea piece by piece. Bang! The waves set off and the waves were rough. At the Arctic workstation, staff from different countries subconsciously looked up at the sky. All you can see is the atmosphere that has been distorted to the extreme, and the air waves that look like a harbinger of doom. Oh my god! Is this the end of the world? No, no, no. We have to leave quickly, otherwise we will be affected if we continue like this. Many staff members swallowed their saliva. They immediately abandoned the space station and chose to return to the ship to escape. After all, most workstations won't go too far into the Arctic depths. So it is generally easier to evacuate. Above the sky, Yuan is still quietly gathering momentum. The twisted air burst out. Converged to the side of the Guilai sword, everything was compressed beyond its limits. A gap in space and time is created between the gathering and rotating storms, distorting the space and making the atmosphere flow upward. With the strong wind blowing back, everything around was blown to the end of nothingness. Now, the proudly whirling divine sword whips up strong winds, preparing to repeat the miracle of creation. What kind of power is this? Spellcasters and spell spirits, maybe they are not even toys to him, right? Haha, the clown is actually me. Liang Miansunyo stared blankly at the completely swept sky. Suddenly he smiled bitterly. He finally understood why he was called an ordinary person. In the face of such terrifying and powerful power, he is not even an ant. Being called an ordinary person is already a kind of boast. This life. Just being able to see this blow would not have wasted his 1,000 years of survival. Yuan calmly stared at the collapsing glacier. He tightly grasped the hilt of the sword in his hand and poured the magic power into it completely. Then the sword wind began to engulf the space itself. Even the light and sound converged towards the twisted air, and the swords of silence and blackness began to draw in the surroundings. He held the hilt of the sword tightly as it roared like a living creature. Immediately afterwards, The young man stood in the sky, Qing Zhouwei said. Talking about the origin, the separation of heaven and earth, the opening of Wuhi, and the splitting of the world is my sword of deviation. The mortar of the stars, the hell in heaven, is the end point on the eve of the creation of the world. Subdue him with death, and the heaven and earth will be at odds, the opening star. This is the state of the deviant sword's maximum output. The quasi-space rupture caused by the deviation sword EA forms an attack similar to a space-time rift, crushing all enemies. Even so far, this is the first time Yuan has used it. Because of previous opponents, it's not enough for him to use this proud sword. Although Fili Shuang belongs to the category of Zhuang, it should be closer to the staff. The 3 stone slabs each represent heaven, earth, and the underworld, and each rotate in different directions to show the proper form of the world. All 3 pieces taken together also represent universe. Therefore, if you want to see through this sword in Mao 1.4, you will only suffer a strong backlash from the universe. As the young man finished speaking, his eyes suddenly condensed, and he knew the reason. Boom! The glaciers scream and the snowfields roar. Along with his powerful slash, the incredible high pressure caused cracks in the surrounding space. Before the sword fell, everything was just a meaningless chaos. After the sword was swung, new laws separated the sky, sea, and earth. This sword. What he admires is not only the earth, but the entire world including the sky. The turbulent power that created the world rushed out paintings accompanied by calming chants. Come on one, tear the world apart with my sword of deviation. Let this world know what true strength is once again. The moment Yuan held the hilt of the sword with one hand and exerted slight force, the atmosphere changed. The sky falls, the glacier collapses, everything returns to nothingness. Everything is destroyed, space collapses, and the mind is filled with fear. This is a time older than people or the planet. It is the power wielded by the gods to open up the world. Now, in Yi's hands, it is shown in the world again, the ultimate and strongest blow fell from the sky. Glaciers throughout the Arctic Sea. It suddenly collapsed. P.S. Asking for flowers. Asking for monthly tickets. Asking for reviews. There are many more chapters to be updated tomorrow. It only hurts my hands, so why bother? I have already bought a massage device and strive to continue to update every day. The plotline has also been laid out. Readers, please stay tuned. Chapter 107. Arctic Sea Ice. It refers to saltwater ice formed directly from seawater in the Arctic region, and also includes continental glaciers, icebergs, and Iceland that enter the ocean. There are approximately millions of square kilometers of Arctic sea ice. This moment, under the gaze of satellites barely able to penetrate the chaotic atmosphere, broken into countless pieces. And the governments of various countries officially announced at the first time. Call in members of the escaping research station to learn about the situation. What happened? Did a meteorite fall? Why was there no warning? The chaos in the atmosphere does not conform to scientific basis. Based on rough speculation of the airflow, it has exceeded the current limit of typhoons. Is there a monster coming out over there? Thank. And respond to them. It was the horrified voices of the scientists from the scientific research station. The noisy sound mixed with electromagnetic interference barely reached these people's ears. We don't know what happened either. The atmosphere is now completely chaotic. Let's evacuate from the edge by boat. It is estimated that all sea ice in an area of at least millions of square kilometers has completely broken up and begun to disappear. It's enough to rival an ice block as big as the continent. Smashed and gone in minutes. Many official members who received this reply fell into a deep silence. Because even if they are not scientists, I also understand how terrifying this number is. With millions of square kilometers, even if it were placed on the Earth, 09 would definitely not be considered a small country. And such a vast iceberg. It disappeared in such an instant. Even the mass bombing of atomic bombs cannot have such power. It's just a joke. While these people were stunned, the member responsible for satellite monitoring quickly reported nervously. Report. Judging from the current presumed disappearance area, at least 7 million square kilometers of Arctic icebergs have completely disappeared, and chaos in ocean foam has been detected. There will be damage to coastal areas throughout the Arctic. Global sea levels will rise. An emergency warning has been issued. Sirens blared. Everyone's expressions became extremely solemn at this moment. If it hadn't really been revealed, I'm afraid they wouldn't be able to believe that such a thing would happen. After officials from various countries learned of this information, they also took action quickly and began to warn and evacuate their stations. For now, the only thing to be thankful for is that at least such a terrifying blow did not fall on their heads. Although it is unclear what exactly happened. But if this blow falls on other continents, even if it is just the Antarctic continent, I'm afraid it may cause even more powerful destructive power. By that time, not only humans, but also the Earth's environment may have an irreversible impact. And the destructive power has reached this level. No matter what, we can no longer hide it. We can only find a way to describe it as a meteorite impact. Arctic. It is supposed to be a white world that will never fade away. But at this time, it became so fragile, under the high temperature impact caused by the tearing airflow and magic power. The huge boulders and ice blocks formed over hundreds of millions of years overturned and collapsed one after another. The air waves tearing apart the space gradually spread, and in just a few minutes, a huge crack formed on the waves. Boom, boom, boom. The ice cubes turned into piles of irregular fragments, which were constantly annihilated and torn apart under the action of the shock wave. The huge iceberg disappeared and was replaced by billions of ice flowers. One after another, they poured into the huge pothole on the seabed. Such a terrible blow. The underground volcano was forced to erupt, causing huge waves to roll and move like a giant dragon. Of course, this is only part of it. The terrifying power of the Gailai sword to open up the world. Many girls in the light boat could not help but stare at this scene with wide eyes in disbelief. Compared to this blow, what are the mountains and the cursed spirit? Even if all the cursed spirits are added up, he will only be easily killed by Mr. Yuan. So awesome. Yotsuya Miko said blankly. Idiot. You should be super powerful. I almost thought the world was going to end. Xiaodiao Yaliwa folded her hands in front of her chest, her cheeks flushed with excitement. Just the thought of such a powerful force. People's hearts can't help but begin to yearn for it. Idiot, is this the only extent of your vocabulary? Bai Yingwei glanced at the two of them helplessly, then took a deep breath and sighed, it's no longer enough to describe it as shocking. Shina Mashiro ignored the people next to her. Through the transparent mask, he carefully stared at the changing scenes in front of him, firmly remembering the details of Yuan's move in his mind. As long as she doesn't want to forget, she will never forget such a scene. Yukinashita Yukino pursed her lips and stared seriously. The two sisters stood together, looking at the entire North Pole that was mostly destroyed, feeling in a trance. According to such a terrifying power, wouldn't it be said? Yuan can easily destroy humanity if he wants? After all, the several continents inhabited by humans are completely unable to withstand such destruction. At that time, if Yuan really wants to take action, all species, let alone humans, may become extinct. The two of them looked at each other, and silently adjusted their priorities in their hearts. No matter what Yukinashita's expectations are, or the goal of entering politics is far less important than keeping Yuan by his side. Rumble. Heat waves erupt from icebergs, and there are many creatures under the ocean currents. Escape quickly from this ruin shrouded in despair and death. Glaciers and oceans were torn apart like clay, and the sky and clouds were easily torn apart. It's like putting a landscape painting on paper into a blender. Such a terrifying sight is impossible to look directly at. In this scene of nothingness, the atmosphere trembled and covered the sky, making people feel desperate fear and endless darkness. It's so beautiful. What I'm after is this kind of power. Liang Miansunyo looked at the scene in front of him in shock. He slowly clenched his fists and couldn't help but smile with joy. Being able to serve such a strong man, even if it means becoming a slave, is completely worth it. Rather, he was able to survive, but Yuan didn't want to kill him. That's right, that's it. The world has been destroyed and rewritten. The true king who rules the world. This is the meaning of my existence. He shouted in a deep voice excitedly. Staring at the doomsday-like and terrifying scene in front of me. The entire glacier collapsed and collapsed so quickly that the force had completely changed in just a few minutes. Invisible tornadoes continue to pull fragments of large glaciers, until the entire scene disappears from sight. Yuan stood quietly in the air, using his magic power to seriously look at the destruction he had caused. Through the omniscient and omnipotent star, he instantly anticipated the precise power of his blow. Well, 791 square kilometers of sea ice have been evaporated. In terms of power, it has reached the level of the so-called weak continent, right? 130 after making a rough estimate. He already has a rough idea of his current all-out attack. Compared to the living flash, it is about the same level, because his panel is integrated with the dragon heart, plus the concept of the king's treasure is sublimated, but the living flash has the mythical gift. Although he can do it, under normal conditions, he will never encounter enemies who need to do this. Well, it's pretty so-so. Yuan stood in the eye of the atmospheric wind. After groaning, he turned his head and glanced at the dark round bead. At this time, Sunyo immediately recognized the situation and said without hesitation, "Master, please give the order." Hearing this, Yuan nodded with satisfaction. He turned back to the light boat. I found that the girls at this time were gathering together to watch the latest news broadcast. They looked at each other with curiosity on their faces. The anchor on the screen was broadcasting urgent news about the impact of the Arctic. This station's news is broadcasting a special report. What is playing now is the current image of the Arctic Circle after the huge meteorite fell. Everyone, please take a look. It is believed that millions of square kilometers of sea ice has disappeared in an almost circular shape. It is estimated that all sea ice was gone over an area of at least close to 8 million square kilometers. An ice mass the size of Kangaroo Country disappeared in a matter of minutes based on the current situation analysis, although the meteorite will not cause a world-ending crisis. But in the short term, the evaporation of sea ice in the entire Arctic will cause large tsunamis and sea level rise in the short term. Coastal cities, please take countermeasures. PS, please subscribe. Please give me flowers. Please give me monthly tickets. I checked some FSF information and updated Social 10 a little late. Thank you for your monthly support. Here is a big chapter. There will be 2 more chapters to be updated later. Chapter 108. Hear the announcement above. Several girls also had a little worry in their eyes. After all, after being amazed and shocked by this most powerful blow, I learned of such amazing destructive power. Naturally, we are worried about the dangers that the country will face next. And at this time, Yuan said with a soft smile, "Don't worry about this. With such a big movement, coastal cities have already begun to evacuate. The impact may be greater on island nations near the Arctic. Anyway, you don't have to worry." The reason why he said this was not just to comfort a few people. In the future, observed by his omniscient and omnipotent star, clear information and data come to mind. The waves created this time. It will also become part of his plan. Raising sea levels and waves will put the entire neon world into panic. It's reached this point. The government's appeasement no longer has much effect. The next cursed spirits that pop up, and even the original special level cursed spirits, will be further enhanced. Although it cannot be compared with Liang Mi and Sunyo. But for the government, it's enough to create quite a mess. In this case, it is a good opportunity for Pangxing sect to develop rapidly. Hey! That's good. Bai Yinghui breathed a sigh of relief, and his heart suddenly felt relaxed. She didn't know what method Yuan wanted to use. But since it was said by the young man, there must be the other party's reasons and ways to deal with it. Well, Mr. Yuan is a good person. After all, he has killed so many cursed spirits. Zionio Yaliahua folded his hands on his chest, his eyes full of confidence. Even such a powerful attack can be easily created. The waves generated by the mere aftermath. To Mr. Yuan, it is not worth mentioning at all. Shina Mashiro didn't care about the impact of the tsunami. She was holding a pencil and roughly drawing something on the draft paper. She will only immerse herself in her own world and be indifferent to what is happening outside. Yet, if it's just some waves, the city just needs to do a good job. Yatsuya Maiko thought about the same truth. So far, with advance warning, there are rarely large-scale casualties. The reason why tsunamis and earthquakes are so destructive is that they are so sudden that people have no time to react. So she also felt at ease. By the way, it's rare that everyone is here. I just have something to say. Yuan stood in the light boat and looked at the girls in front of him. The corners of his mouth turned up slightly, with a slight smile. Hey, what's going on? Yatsuya Maiko blinked her golden eyes, showing curiosity. Kotori Yurika and Shiro Gainkei also stepped forward curiously. Yukinashita Yukino and Yangno looked at each other, and silently stepped closer, forming a circle around Yuan. The stunning scene of beautiful girls gathering together caught Yuan's eyes. He chuckled and said, "It is expected that in the next 1 to 2 weeks, the world will undergo drastic changes, and a new era is coming. The words just fell. Many girls, including Mashiro Shina, were stunned on the spot. A new era? Although they didn't understand what it meant, some expectations arose in their hearts. Being called such by Yuan is definitely a big deal. Now, after studying, you should already understand the phenomenon of curse power, right? Yuan was not in a hurry, but smiled slowly and coaxingly. Hearing this, the girls looked at each other and nodded sincerely. What does this have to do with the new era? Xiaodiao Yuliaka couldn't help but ask. As a middle school student, she was naturally very curious about such a sensitive word in the new era. Simply put, the energy of mantra is present in the human body all the time and will be emitted. And I have now completed the equation between spells and magic. In about a week or two, the mutual transformation of spiritual power and magic power will begin throughout the Neon territory. Yuan said in a calm tone. He decided to let the girls know about the new era first. In this way, after the transformation barrier is completely expanded, you will not fall into panic at the first time. And as his voice fell, the girls were stunned for a moment, and then shuddered subconsciously. Because as long as they are not fools, they will understand what is behind this transformation. Yotsuya Mitsuko's eyes widened, full of surprise and shock. The whole neon, all the magic. Will everything become magic? Xiaodiao Yuliwa was stunned on the spot, swallowing uneasily, and began to feel excited for some reason. The world described by Chiyunibiu in order to escape, seems to be about to become a reality. This is too awesome. And this is just the beginning. Yuan stood there and spoke calmly. His fingers tapped easily in mid-air, using magic power to construct a simulated structure of the earth. After appearing in front of the girl, he continued to chuckle seriously. My ultimate goal is to transform all the magic in the world into magic. In that world, there will be no more cursed spirits appearing. There is no doubt about it. This is a big project that will change the entire world. It is no exaggeration to describe it as a new era. Bai Yinghui thought in his eyes when he heard this, and suddenly asked, Mr. Yuan, what should I do with the remaining curse spirits and spell masters? If the magic power is converted into magic power, these people will be the first to be impacted. Although the former still exists, the magic power cannot be replenished. The latter will generate magic circuits in the body, but this process is very painful. Yuan replied casually. He didn't care about the existence of the curse spirit and the curse master from the beginning. As long as he controls the source of magic power, all magicians will be restrained by him. Whether he can mobilize magic power or not is only a matter of his thoughts. He will also become the ancestor of magic. After listening to Yuan's narration, the girl's eyes suddenly showed longing. It's amazing. Yotsuya Maiko couldn't help but sigh. If it were her words. I definitely can't think of such a powerful thing. If it really succeeds, the curse spirit will be completely extinct from now on. Just thinking about it makes people feel extremely excited. By the way, Mashiro, you can almost take the elixir when you get back. Yuan smiled at the compliment, turned to Mashiro and said. He knew that Mashiro was actually not very attached to the magician, but soon the new era, okay, would come. The world is bound to undergo new changes. Too strong magic power will also give birth to creatures with magic power. If it were the early stage, the army could still handle it, but the changes brought about by magic power were more than that. Good. Mashiro nodded obediently. Yukino and Yangno looked at this scene with envy. After all, being able to become a magician is already very impressive in their eyes. After giving the order, Yuan looked at the sister next to him and smiled. Yukino and Harino. Yes, the two of them replied quickly. At this moment, their hearts couldn't help but become quite expectant. What is Yuan going to say next? Is it possible that I also have a chance to become a magician? After all, a new era is coming soon, and the importance of magicians is simply obvious. Yuan glanced at their graceful figures and smiled. If you are free the day after tomorrow, you can come to my room. I have something to tell you. Chapter 109. When Yukino and Yangno heard this, they were stunned for a moment. Immediately afterwards, there was a little excitement in the eyes of the two people. Not sure though. Yuan wanted to say something. But there must be something special to tell him, and at the very least, he can take advantage of this period to close the distance between the two parties. This is a very precious opportunity. It is not easy to be alone on weekdays. Of course. As for the deeper things, it's not like the two of them haven't thought about it. Yukinashita Yukino's pretty face turned slightly red. After hesitating for a moment, she noticed that Yano beside her gritted her teeth and made up her mind. Clear. Yang Na frowned and glanced at Shui Na, but also looked at Yuan and nodded seriously. Now she has a different perspective than before. After witnessing Yuan's true strength, she realized that the person in front of her was a being that the Yukinashita family could not match. Even just by staying with each other. The entire Yukinashita family. I'm afraid they will all become world-class families. In the face of absolute strength, these are nothing at all. Shiro Gainkei and Yatsuya Michael looked at each other when they saw this. They could probably guess it. The two sisters from the Yukinashita family may very well become members of the magic family in the future. Although several people felt a little helpless, it was Mr. Yuan's decision after all. Naturally, they didn't want to say much. However, during this period of getting along, they found that the two people in the Yukinashita family were quite knowledgeable. And he also has certain talents, if he becomes a magician. Maybe you can also be of some help? Okay, let's go back to 123 first. Anyway, the strongest blow has already been executed. Yuan stood there and chuckled, snapping his fingers lightly. The huge light boat was suddenly wrapped in space lolocks and disappeared in the blink of an eye. After a while, the group of people returned to the villa. Bai Yinghui glanced at the current time and found that it was already past 8 o'clock in the evening in Neon. Well, it's getting late. The girl pursed her lips. Honestly, she originally wanted to stay overnight at Yuan's house. But this matter is simple to say, but the family must be very worried now. Jun Yuan, I'm going home first. See you at school tomorrow. Bai Yinghui turned to look at Yuan and said with a chuckle. No matter what happened. In her eyes, Yuan is always the hero who saved her. As for the tsunami, it actually has little impact on Tokyo, and she also believes in Yuan's plan. Okay. Yuan nodded lightly and smiled. He didn't intend to keep everyone here. Yatsuya Mieko and Shina Mashiro were enough. Leaving too many people behind, he didn't have time to communicate with everyone. Subsequently, Yuan suddenly turned his head and looked at the little bird Yuliahua on the side. Rika, it's almost time for you to go back. Your sister is looking for you everywhere now. It is estimated that in another hour, the police will be called directly. He said with a smile. In fact, he planned to meet Xiao Yu Shiwa in a few days. After all, this is Sister Yu. In his current harem group, most of them are girls, and Yuji has not confiscated one. Bird Tour Shiwa is a good choice. Hey! I know. Xiao Yuliwa quickly came to his senses and nodded. He and Bai Yinghui looked at each other and walked out of the villa together. There is no need to worry about the safety of the two of them. Even if it is a special level curse spirit, facing two people at the same time, you can't even think about taking it down. As the two left, Yuan took out the phone from his arms. A number was dialed. The Shinomiya family residence. Exquisite and dense lights illuminate the interior of an office. The bright moonlight faintly penetrated into the room through the window, reflecting Shinomiya Yanan's frown. What's going on over there at the North Pole? It will actually cause nearly 8 million square kilometers of sea ice to disappear, which is estimated to have a considerable impact. Although according to statistics, the vast majority of water vapor will refreeze, and ice will quickly recover under extremely cold conditions. But according to experts' estimation, the scope of impact is not even a small number. He looked to be in his 50s, looking solemnly at the documents placed on the table. For Sagong Yanan, what was happening was completely beyond his expectation. And unlike the meteorite falls that ordinary people know about, this time's impact in the Arctic has not yet been determined at all. At the very least, satellites from various countries have not detected any traces of meteorites. Even experts from the observatory went back to the past month. Regarding any signs of meteorite fall, there is no sign of any celestial movement under the meteorite. Jingle bell. Just as Shinomiya Yanan was still thinking about the Shinomiya family's next actions, the sudden ringtone of his cell phone immediately interrupted his thoughts, causing him to flash a look of dissatisfaction. Who is calling him at this hour? Shinagong Yanan picked up the phone, glanced at the phone number above, and his expression suddenly changed with shock. Teach, Master, is there anything I can do to help you? Sagong Yanan answered the phone and swallowed. He has very high expectations for Yuan's current strength. If nothing else, happens, I am afraid that Mr. Yuan destroyed that mountain. Just that. Yuan's strength is much more terrifying than expected. As for the North Pole matter, he was unable to contact the boy. It's not a big deal. Next, I need the Shinomiya family to support the Pangxing sect. Of course, this is not just pure economic support, but also the disaster prevention actions and neon tasks of various countries. I need to see the presence of Pangxing cult and let the church develop as soon as possible. Yuan ordered calmly. He knew that Sagong Yanan would never refuse his request. Rather, it would be better to say that the Sagong family and the Pangxing sect have already developed quite in-depth cooperation. Yes. Sagong Yanan was slightly startled, then quickly recovered and nodded. To him, an old fox. As the saying goes, those who know the current affairs are heroes, and Yuan's actions are completely fine. Although at present, these members of the Pangxing sect are not qualified for emergency rescue and disaster relief. But as long as you have money, the rest is much easier to handle. Very well, you don't need to worry about things over there in the Arctic. Everything will eventually calm down, and there won't be any other large-scale destruction for the time being. Yuan's voice sounded calmly. He quickly hung up the phone. Beep. When the phone tone disappeared, Sagong Yanan's face was extremely serious. He tapped his fingers on the table. A slight cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Real or fake? The information revealed from the boy's words just now. This clearly shows that what happened in the North Pole is definitely related to him. Honestly. To Shinagong Yanan, this kind of thing is simply frightening. As long as you are not a fool, you will understand how terrifying the gold content of millions of square kilometers of broken sea ice is. Although sea ice is not ground. But with such a large scope, all the nuclear bombs currently available to mankind may not be able to cause such great damage. If this matter is really related to Yuan, he is more willing to believe that the mysterious organization behind it took action. Although it is just speculation, Yuan's sudden emergence of another extraordinary path is obviously not something he discovered by himself. There is a huge organization behind him. Hiss. Sagong Yanan took a breath of cold air. From the strength revealed by this organization, it would be easy to destroy the continent, right? This is a bit too exaggerated and scary. No. Kaguya must speed up as quickly as possible. Otherwise, after Yuan is completely exposed, God knows how many women will come to his door. You must know that in front of such a perverted level of powerhouse, the Shinomiya family is nothing more than an ant-like existence. Sagong Yanan's eyes gradually became sharp. He immediately took out the phone from his pocket and dialed several phone numbers immediately. The mission must be carried out as soon as possible. Show the loyalty revealed by their Shinomiya family. Inside the villa. After Yuan hung up the phone, a playful smile appeared on his lips. All of Sagong Yanan's reactions were based on his speculations, and he naturally had no intention of explaining these people's misunderstandings. Anyway, even if they say it themselves, they will not believe it easily. Immediately afterwards, Yuan casually took out the black ball and said in a calm tone. About there. Next, I will plan on resurrecting you. After you are resurrected, go to the Pangxing sect's headquarters and join Luosuo. He'll tell you what needs to be done. With Luosuo and Sunyo to do things, I can have a lot of energy left. Anyway, the current magic world can defeat these two people. Even Gojo Satoru couldn't do it. Is big. Sunyo replied in a serious voice, his heart full of joy. The master still has his place of use, so he must perform well. Chapter 110. After giving orders to Sunyo, several girls watching nearby looked at it curiously. They were smart enough to guess that Yuan's instructions just now should be about the impact of the Arctic tsunami. Since there is Pangxing sect and this 1000-year-old king of spells, it immediately made people feel more at ease. After Yuan finished dealing with this matter, he turned to look at the remaining girls and smiled. It's getting late, you should remember to rest. Yukino Kaname and Harano nodded obediently. Shina Mashiro did not respond, but stared at the draft in his hand seriously, describing the scene where Yuan showed his magical powers not long ago. Perhaps. For the vast majority of people, the only things that can cause tsunamis are meteorites and earthquakes. So I didn't have any doubts about the content in the broadcast. But Mashiro wanted to remember that scene completely. After the painting is done, wait until one day in the future to publish it as your own work. Yuan saw this and did not disturb Mashiro. He just smiled and turned towards his bedroom. Yotsuya Michael looked at the boy's back, her eyes flashing slightly. She was a little confused. Originally, according to her plan, she should have followed her now. But when I think about the opponent's wolf-like, no, simply inhuman physical strength, one person can't do it no matter how hard he thinks. And it will be quite tiring. You know she has to go to school tomorrow. She couldn't just skip class because of this matter. Although it didn't seem impossible, she wasn't ready yet. How about, find a way to convince Mashiro? At this time, Yotsugamiko focused her attention on Mashiro, who was concentrating on drawing next to her. She began to make silent calculations in her mind. Click, 1. After the door was pushed open, Yuan walked into the bedroom again. The suitcase was still placed, and the girl inside it seemed to be aware of the movement in the outside world at this moment. The eyelashes moved slightly at this time. When she opened her slightly dazed amethyst-colored eyes, she subconsciously observed her surroundings and sat up from the suitcase. First timing. She saw the handsome young man in front of her. Subconsciously, he immediately picked up the cane at his side, pointed it at the young man in front of him, and said in a serious voice. Don't come near, who are you? Humph. The inexplicable kidnapping case, my weird god of wisdom, and the witch who arbitrates and resolves disputes between them. To be able to fall for such a little trick, those guys are really unreliable. Kodoko Iwanaga frowned. She didn't expect that she would be kidnapped when she woke up. Fortunately, the robber in front of her was inexperienced, and nothing seemed to happen while she was sleeping. Otherwise things will be in trouble. As a beautiful girl, she doesn't want anything to happen out of nowhere. I saw Kodoko Iwanaga suddenly waking up. Yuan stood there with a gentle smile on his face. Kidnapping? I don't have this need. Miss, you should have been kidnapped by a curse spirit. There are remnants of the spell in your body. It's equivalent to a kind of man-made heaven and curse, at the expense of sacrificing part of one's limbs in exchange for the corresponding special abilities. He said calmly. In front of the omniscient and omnipotent star, it is easy to see through such trivial matters. Hear this. Iwanaga Kodoko's expression changed. She didn't expect that the young man in front of her could see through this at a glance. When he was 11 years old, he was abducted by monsters called Weird End monsters at the cost of losing one eye and one leg. Became their god of wisdom. Although she didn't want to lose her limbs, since everything had happened, she could only accept it. She looked around subconsciously. He instantly judged that he was in a valuable villa, if this villa belonged to the young man in front of him. Then the other person. It seems that there is really no need to kidnap myself. Are you a conjurer? Iwanaga Kodoko couldn't help but asked. She still knew something about spellcasters, those guys who were born with spells, very powerful. After hearing the inquiry, Yuan instead groaned and answered simply. I'm not a magician. However, I was listed as a special magician. The words just fell. Iwanaga Kodoko's eyes suddenly trembled slightly. A super magician. That is, the guy who is at the top of the magic world. Is this the boy in front of me? Really or not? He looks so young, but he is already a super spell master. Is this the so-called genius? Special grade? Kodoko Iwanaga took a deep breath. Since he was kidnapped by the curse spirit. So Yuan, as a conjurer, should have saved her? If that was the case, it was because she was so indiscriminate and so rude to her savior. Is that so? I'm really sorry. I'm a little too excited. Iwanaga Kodoko picked up the cane, relied on one leg seriously, and stood up again, wearing a light blue dress and blue pleats. It reflects the beautiful legs wrapped in white knee-high socks. She stood up and nodded seriously. My name is Kodoko Iwanaga, Iwa of rocks, Naga of eternity, Kodoko of musical instruments and Kodoko of children. Thank you very much for your help. Where is the current area? It shouldn't be a foreign country, right? Hear the other person's questions. Oh, please give me flowers. Yuan just shook his head slightly at this time. This is the Tokyo area. He didn't explain anything. Since the other party has already misunderstood, let the misunderstanding continue. After hearing the reply, Wakayong Kodoko breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I didn't end up abroad for no apparent reason, otherwise leaving the country illegally would be quite a troublesome matter. just when she was hesitating about how much thank you gift she should give. But he heard the young man's voice sounding calmly. There's no need for a thank you gift, I already have enough money. But the current era is full of curse spirits, and the huge curse power has begun to distort the weird things that signed the contract with you. If this continues, even after you go back, those ghosts should attack you too. Yuan just finished speaking. He just took out his mobile phone and opened the official forum. He handed it directly to Kodoko Iwanaga in front of him. The girl wearing a beret took it seriously and glanced at the content above the forum. Her brows frowned tightly. Meteor fall, tsunami. And the destroyed mountains of Tokyo, what are these? How long have I slept in total? How come so many things happened? Iwanaga Kodoko rubbed her head, her face full of helplessness. She never thought that during the time she was asleep, the social order would be so chaotic. Although it is not to the extent that rituals and music have collapsed. But there are rumors about the end of the world. There are also endless ones. The spell power generated in this situation will be quite terrifying. She has rather special abilities. An existence that lies somewhere between human and weird. She has the ability to communicate with various monsters everywhere, and even ghosts can touch her body. But in this case, even ghosts will only be turned into evil spirits. Thinking of the dangers she might face after returning, Iwanaga Kodoko couldn't help but shudder. Damn it, what kind of world is this? She complained angrily, with a sad look on her face. This helpless situation was completely unexpected by the girl. Suddenly, Yuan spoke at this time. By the way, do you want to recover your eyes and limbs? I do have this idea. He glanced at the girl and his tone was quite calm. Through the brown hair, you can see that the other person's hidden right eye is a prosthetic eye, and there is also a prosthetic leg under the left knee. The words just fell. Iwanaga Kodoko froze on the spot, then suddenly turned her head to look at Yuan. She looked at the young man, showed a deeply suspicious expression, and said something shocking. You don't want me to be that person, do you? Or do you want to peel the banana and give it to me? Chapter 111. Iwanaga Kodoko never believed that there was inexplicable kindness in this world. He and Yuan just met by chance. For something as powerful as being able to heal a broken limb, why did it have to be done on her body? Don't be too nervous. I just want to make a deal with you. Although it is insignificant to me, it is an opportunity to change your destiny. Aren't you going to listen to it? Yuan said. He doesn't care whether Kodoko Iwanaga trusts him or not. After all, everything in the future is under his watch, and he has already anticipated what kind of decision Iwanaga Kodoko will make. Really? Hearing this, Iwanaga Kodoko's eyes became complicated. Today's society is so complicated that the self-protection methods she relied on in the past may be difficult to achieve. And this is a chance to make up for his lost limbs. There is absolutely no reason to refuse. Your body was created as a man-made heaven and curse, and you exchanged the body's incompleteness for some power. And after making up for the physical body, your body's ability to carry extraordinary power will also reach a whole new level. This trait is quite good. So I hope you can join my church. 683 Yuan smiled. To put it simply, Kodoko Iwanaga can awaken more magic circuits. Although it is not as exaggerated as Ilya, the initial magic circuit should be twice as long as a normal awakening. As the saying goes, the cause is strength. The quality and quantity of magic circuits determine a considerable part of a magician's strength, so it's good to have a gift delivered to your door. At the very least, he has the potential for special power. Just needs a little more growth. You can become a first-class magician in the new era. Your church. Kodoko Iwanaga narrowed her beautiful eyes slightly and asked with a slightly curious tone, what is the name of the church? Pangxing Cult. After Yuan reported her name, Iwanaga Kodoko's eyes widened immediately. Pangxing Sect? Is that the very wealthy church? I heard that the amount of land contracted recently has been outrageously exaggerated, and there is a religion backed by the Shinomi Zaibatsu behind it. Kodoko Iwanaga is no fool. Although it is true that she sometimes speaks shockingly, in fact, judging from her background, she is also an out-and-out eldest lady. Of course, the gold content of this young lady. Compared with the Shinomi Zaibatsu, it is nothing at all. Obviously he is so young. Iwanaga Kodoko looked at the young man, with a little amazement in his eyes and continued, he is actually the leader of the Pangxing sect. Are you the illegitimate son of the Shinomiya family? Recently, the Sigong family's assistance to the Pangxing sect can be said to be visible to the naked eye. Even for the development of the Pangxing sect, the buildings and commercial streets near the stronghold were purchased and all were handed over to the Pangxing sect for development. This also allowed Pangxing sect to develop rapidly. Let alone an angel investor, I'm afraid he doesn't treat his own son like this, he just gives him whatever he wants. What are you thinking? I'm a super magician. It's not normal for the Shinomiya family to fawn over me. I just asked them to do some small things for me. Yuan glanced at the girl and answered casually. Only then did Kodoko Iwanaga recall the identity of the boy in front of her, one of the few strongest beings in the world of magic. It seems, it's not impossible to be fawned over like this. Okay. That's it. Should I call you boss or boss? According to what is said in American dramas, this is a cooler title, or do you want me to call you, darling? Kodoko Iwanaga winked playfully and said with a smile. She now understands her situation. As long as Yuan wants to, he can definitely find a better candidate, he just happens to be attracted by it. In this case, it is better to please this young man now. As for moral integrity and all that, can it be eaten? It's up to you to call me Yuan. Yuan didn't care about the girl's name. After confirming the other party's arrangement, he stretched out. Anyway, you should go and rest now. Your room is on the right next door. I have arranged for the maid to tidy it up. If you have any other matters, you can wait until tomorrow. After the words fell, Iwanaga Kodoko nodded obediently. Then, he just patted the dust on his skirt, got up and walked out the door. Her instinct told herself. Yuan did not lie in this regard, and the strength and aura hidden in the other party, are as unbelievable as the abyss. Click, 1. After the door closed, Yuan yawned. He walked forward and sat on the bed, stretched and lay down. Hey, I used up a lot of magic power today. Let's take a rest for the night. Is it worthy of being called the Gailai sword? A full-strength blow from the deviant sword. The amount of magic required to pay is simply astronomical. In today's modern world where mystery has not yet returned, even if Yuan is a demigod, he has consumed a lot of magic power and has to recover for a while. Certainly. No matter how little magic power is left, it is also enough to easily deal with those so-called strongest. Midnight. About midnight, Yuan's door was opened softly, and the familiar blonde girl led the figure behind her into the room. Compared to Shina Mashiro, who seemed to have been prepared for a long time, Yotsuya Miko swallowed nervously. She didn't expect that she just proposed the idea of a night attack, and Mashiro actually put it into action without hesitation. She was just thinking about it. But seeing that Mashiro was already moving, she naturally couldn't lag behind. When the two of them reached the bedside, they saw that the young man had opened his eyes at some point and chuckled playfully. You secretly entered the room in the middle of the night to murder your husband, right? Mianzi, why is your face so red? Yuan just spoke up. Mitoko, who was originally following Mashiro Shina, had red cheeks, nervously grasping the hem of her skirt with both hands, and explained quickly. No. It's not. On the contrary, Mashiro said with a serious face. We're not here to murder my husband, we're here to fight. Hearing Mashiro say that word without shame, Miko's face behind him was even more blushing, and she didn't know what to do. She also felt a little regretful. If I had known that Mashiro's path would be so wild, I wouldn't have agreed so easily. That's it, I know. Yuan stood up from the bed solemnly, reaching out his hands to hold the two girls in his arms. Sensing the tension in Miko's heart, he just smiled softly and comforted him. Actually, I'm quite happy. I see you are so proactive. After hearing the compliment, there was a little joy in Yotsuya Miko's golden eyes. She stopped her trembling body and let the two of them lie down with satisfaction. Since it is a rare happy day, then let's give a fun performance after a long time. Early morning. Early on Tuesday morning, Yuan got up. The rare exciting experience yesterday made him feel quite happy. After all, this is Miko and Mashiro's initiative. As long as they become familiar with each other, such things will become more and more common in the future. Of course, Yuan was not in a hurry about this matter. In his opinion, whether it's your daily life or the progress of your plans, they are all an indispensable part of enjoyment. When it is time to enjoy, you should enjoy it to the fullest. That girl hasn't gotten up yet. Obviously she slept for so long before, forget it, let the maid introduce the situation to her when she wakes up. Yuan glanced at Iwanaga Kotoko's room. It seems that due to the influence of a large amount of information yesterday, the girl was not able to get a good night's sleep. Of course, maybe there is also a problem with the sound in your own room? Although the soundproofing of the room is good. But after all, he played quite intensely last night, and maybe he would hear some sounds next door. Yuan shook his head and didn't care about these things. He got up and washed himself a little. He just packed his backpack, drove his luxury car out of the garage, and headed straight to school. Boom! After the high-speed and passionate sports car arrived at the school gate, Yuan just walked straight out of the car, made a phone call and asked the professionals to drive into the school's garage. After he put away his cell phone, he walked towards the school gate. At this time, the gate of Xiwan is still bustling with people. The students, who usually look relaxed, were discussing intensely about what happened yesterday. Hey! Did you see it? That big Arctic crater on the satellite map, what a terrible 2.2 meteorite it is. Nonsense. Of course I saw it, it's really scary. Yesterday, the mountains were destroyed, coupled with the falling meteorites, our world will be facing the end, right? One student covered his head and said bitterly. He was immediately rebutted by his companion. Hush! What nonsense are you talking about? How could there be an end of the world or something like that? And I heard that the Pangxing sect has begun to provide assistance. We will definitely be fine. Pangxing cult. That's right. Haven't you heard that the Pangxing sect is quite powerful now? Many plutocrats have publicly expressed their support. It is said that there is a very powerful magician inside. No matter how terrible the cursed spirit is, it can be easily solved. This is an extremely powerful organization. In a short period of time, the world's public opinion affects the entire Neon, and even the reputation of the Pangxing sect has begun to spread from one to another. In addition, the Shinomiya family intentionally added fuel to the flames. The reputation of the entire Pangxing sect is expanding rapidly. P.S. Please subscribe. Please give me monthly tickets. Please give me flowers. During the day, I got burned while holding the iron pot in my hand, so I soaked it for a few hours. The next big chapter will be updated soon. Chapter 112. For the vast majority of students, although they had a good background, they faced extraordinary power that could destroy mountains and falling stars. You will also feel panic. After all, they are just mortals. The so-called rights are in the face of absolutely powerful force. Not worth mentioning at all. As for the things that came up one after another yesterday, the world and Neon forums began to discuss it fiercely. As for the official government after issuing a notice, he immediately pretended to be dead and stopped replying. Yuan took out his mobile phone and glanced at the consultation above, then put the mobile phone down and walked into the classroom. Good morning. Mr. Yuan. Humph. Good morning, contractor. As soon as they arrived in the classroom, Shirogane and Kotori Yurika said hello, with friendly smiles on their faces. Well, good morning. Yuan waved and returned to his seat. He casually flipped through the textbooks placed in front of the table. Bai Yingwei suddenly seemed to remember something, took out a booklet from his backpack and handed it to Yuan behind him. Here, this is yesterday's homework. I guess you don't have time to write, so I took the time to write it for you. You don't need these things anyway. Bai Yingwei blinked his eyes and said with a chuckle. The young man's face was reflected in those azure gemstone eyes, mixed with a slight smile. Well, thank you very much, Monitor. Yuan didn't dislike this little bit of fun, and took it with a smile. He opened the booklet and looked at it. The beautiful handwriting on the top came into his eyes, and he found that in addition to the content of the answer questions, the girl also specially drew hearts in some places. Delicate emotions are revealed. Don't have a taste. Although Yuan likes physical communication, such emotional provision is also very much needed. And Bai Yingwei also understands. I am no better than anyone else in terms of my magician potential or my figure. The time she could use. Only this paragraph. Kotori Yurika's face stiffened when she saw the homework book. She seemed to be recalling something, and immediately covered her head and screamed, Ah! Damn it, do you still have this homework? She had no impression of the homework aspect at all. I followed Yuan to the North Pole yesterday and saw such a shocking scene. Zionio Liahua was so excited that she couldn't sleep all night. Naturally, I completely forgot about my homework. Now that I think about it, she couldn't help but shudder subconsciously. You must know that Shuchen's school rules are quite strict. If you don't write this kind of homework, at least you will inform your parents. Unless it is a special identity like Yuan. Otherwise, most teachers are actually quite responsible. Although Kodari Yurika's father has passed away, this call will definitely come to her sister. Have you not done your homework yet? I'll inform the class teacher later. I believe she will not embarrass you. Yuan noticed Liahua's expression and said to him dumbfounded. They are obviously already magicians. I'm actually still struggling with homework. When Rika, who was wearing a blindfold, heard this, she seemed to have grasped a life-saving straw, and immediately nodded happily and seriously. Then please leave it to the contractor. Next time, I will prepare a surprise for the contractor. Zionio Yaliwa pursed her lips and blushed slightly. After she finished speaking, she immediately covered her red cheeks and buried her face directly on the table, as if water vapor was about to come out. Yuan raised the corners of his mouth slightly when he saw this. Since it was a surprise, he naturally did not intend to use the omniscient and omnipotent star. After all, something worth looking forward to still needs to wait. And he happened to have the time. While a few people were talking and laughing, the golden retriever next to him looked at this scene and clenched his fists unwillingly. She made up her mind. When school is over today, I must explain my affairs clearly. I can't wait any longer. These women are really shameless and attentive. She also has to take action. The time in class flies by like running water. For Yuan, there is no way to follow these courses. Regarding the understanding of the nature of the world, even the most top scientists cannot compare with him. Because what the latter has mastered is only theory. But what he is controlling is a real phenomenon, and the knowledge he is currently teaching is completely useless. So Yuan didn't get used to school. I sent a message directly to the Shinomiya family, and then the afternoon classes were immediately changed to club activities. So Yuan was very quick. He took several girls to an empty room. The room exudes a rich woody aroma, and the air is filled with a luxurious smell. In the center of the room is a large, gorgeous wooden table. Pen holders, folders, laptops, etc. are neatly placed on the table. The chairs next to the table are equally luxurious, made of expensive leather, soft and comfortable, and various electronic devices are placed on the wall. The latest projection installations are installed in opposite corners of the room. Make it more convenient to use. At such a luxurious club activity room, is this specially equipped by the school? Bai Yinghui looked around and exclaimed. Such a luxurious club activity room. This is the first time I've seen it. Well, after all, I have face, so it's natural to do this, but don't underestimate my influence now. Yuan smiled and sat on Shihuo's chair. He narrowed his eyes and chuckled. Humph. This is the activity room that matches the evil king's true eyes and contractors. Let's decide the outcome in the game. Rika folded her hands in front of her chest, full of pride. Her eyes were on the game console next to her, eager to try it. Wait, everyone hasn't arrived yet. Speaking of which, Mr. Yuan, what do you plan to name your club? Bai Yinghui shook his silver hair behind him and asked curiously. Let's call it the Mysterious Research Society. Yuan said casually, anyway, the times will change soon. He only regarded this place as a temporary stronghold. Bai Yinghui nodded thoughtfully. At this time, Yatsuya Maiko, who had arrived late, stood at the door. Hey! Here we come! She stood at the door with a slight gasp, looked up into the room, and saw Yuan's figure with a hint of resentment. Yesterday was so intense that she was late for class today. Although the teacher didn't say anything. But Guo Jianzi felt that Yuan had to carry it. What made the other party do it last night, was even more energetic than originally expected. It feels better than last time. Yuan's endurance seems to have improved considerably. If this continues, let alone two people, even if they go together, they may not be able to do anything to him, right? Yatsuya Maiko was thinking wildly in her head. She walked into the room with flushed cheeks. After looking around, she was also surprised by the layout of the entire room. Is this club activity room? Isn't it too big? Yatsugamiko exclaimed in wonder. After walking into the room, she looked around and found another door. 160 After she tried to push it away. What comes into view is a large-sized bed, a series of other shower facilities and a luxurious layout. Yotsuya Mitsuko was immediately stunned on the spot. At this time, Shiro Gainkei and Kodori Yurika also came forward curiously. When they saw the huge bedroom layout, they also showed stunned expressions, and their cheeks turned red after realizing it. What is this? Isn't this a noble school? How could such a place be set up? Bai Yingwei couldn't help but complained. Shuchaiwan is promoted to the outside world as an aristocratic school. This sudden appearance of the bedroom is too out of character. Does the head teacher really know about this? Yuan looked innocent next to him. He smiled but said nothing. These plutocratic worlds seem to be really anxious. In order to please himself, he began to do everything possible, but he did not dare to send anyone to contact him easily, so he could only try to start from other places. Of course, the Shinomiya family is also indispensable behind this. It seems that this is also a room for rest. When you are tired from playing, you can sleep directly, which is quite convenient. Yuan said seriously. Bai Yingwei next to him suddenly rolled his eyes. Who still doesn't know what this room is used for? Anyway, they have already met Yuan. Kodori Yurika covered her face with her palms in shame. This is too obscene. But her fingers separated some gaps. He looked curiously at the layout of the room and the rather large bed. The school would actually arrange this kind of room. It's really unexpected. PS asking for data. Asking for subscription. There will be an update tomorrow morning. Chapter 113. Certainly. Yuan just showed a few people around and had no real intention to leave. After all, such a shameful thing might not matter to Mashiro, but Maiko and Rika would definitely not be able to accept it. It will be a pleasure to slowly develop it later. And after the busy time in the club. After enhancing the usual intimacy and goodwill, Yuan returned to the classroom. Just as he was about to leave the classroom. But he was suddenly stopped. Yuan, wait a moment. The girl's nervous voice sounded. Yuan heard the sound and went away. Ying Lily held her satchel and stared at his figure. Can I stay after school? I want to go to the rooftop. I have something to tell you. The blonde girl said softly. There was a firm seriousness in her eyes. Maybe the end of the world is coming soon, so she doesn't want to make a regretful choice. The world has become so dangerous, so it doesn't matter if you are a little more wanton? Good. Yuan and the girl looked at each other and nodded slightly. Although he could guess what the girl wanted to say, this did not prevent him from accommodating her. Anyway, for him, this world is already under his control. The only uncertain risk factor at the moment is it comes from outside the world. Because he did not try to spread the ability of the omniscient and omnipotent star. Because although the full-time almighty star can observe outside the world, the mysterious existence outside the world can also determine the unknown of the world through his gaze. For the current Yuan, the time is not right yet. He has not yet controlled Day 1. And when there is a sign-in system, it doesn't matter even if it's a little rough. At the very least, after taking control of Day 1, his strength will reach planet level. In most worlds, this strength should no longer be considered weak. Unless it's some weird world that's so powerful that it's usually a pretty good experience. Under the setting sun, the rooftop was dyed golden. The girl standing in the center of the rooftop is wearing a pleated skirt and school uniform, with two golden ponytails fluttering in the wind. Ying Lily looked at the young man in front of her seriously, bowed slightly, and said seriously. Jun Yuan, I like you. With a bright light shining in her eyes, she spoke decisively. Ying Lily has also thought clearly during this period. If she doesn't confess her love, I'm afraid she won't have a chance. She knew something about Yuan from her parents. There is no doubt about it. The identity of the other party is considered to be extraordinary in the world of magic. But it is precisely because, as the number of curse spirits continues to increase, the importance of curse masters is also increasing day by day. I'm afraid it won't be long. Yuan probably won't stay in school anymore. Ying Lily thought of this. I find it difficult to accept. After all, he seems to be such an outstanding young man. It is already very rare to encounter them. Now that she has met, she naturally doesn't want to miss this opportunity. Faced with Ying Lily's confession, Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at the girl. Today, the clothes Ying Lily wears are based on white, exuding a fresh and refined atmosphere. The skirt is specially decorated with exquisite details, and the beads in the details are gorgeous yet elegant, making it look particularly beautiful. Clearly well groomed. Irari-san. Yuan said. You should understand that I have more than one partner by my side. And there may be more in the future, because the special nature of my identity is beyond imagination. He spoke calmly. Explain these words clearly to Ying Lily. After all, he didn't bother to lie or anything, even when facing Kotoko Iwanaga, he didn't deliberately hide anything. Hearing this, Ying Lily was silent at first. Then, a bright smile suddenly appeared on her face, as gentle and bright as the spring sunshine. No matter how many partners you have, I will never admit defeat. No matter what, I will leave a place in your heart. Ying Lily put her hands on her hips, her eyes filled with firm determination and burning fighting spirit. She has never been willing to lag behind others. Whether she is the squad leader or Rika-san, she will take away more emotions by herself. The wind blew, and the blonde hair was flying in the air. The faint roar of the wind seemed to echo the determination in the girl's heart. Answer like this. Yuan smiled and walked forward, standing in front of the girl and putting her cheek close to hers. Ying Lily's cheeks were slightly red and she froze in place, but showed no signs of dodging and allowed Yuan to attack. In just a few minutes. Starting from being uncomfortable, she became a little comfortable, and then from a little comfortable to feeling short of breath. The blonde girl pushed the person's body uneasily and got out of the boy's arms. From today on, please give me more advice. Ying Lily wiped the corner of her mouth and said softly, unwilling to be outdone. Even though I almost couldn't breathe just now. She also didn't want to show weakness easily. Well, I will. Yuan smiled. Although the performance is average, considering the first time, it is good to be able to persist for so long. Yuan suddenly added, by the way, you should go back and rest early. I will go to your house when I have time on the weekend in a few days. Of course, if you want, you can come to my house. His slightly amused voice. What are you talking about? Immediately, Ying Lily punched Yuan twice in shame and anger, snorted lightly, then turned around and walked off the rooftop. With her twin ponytails swung behind her, she looks particularly cute. Yuan looked at the other persons leaving back. Then he looked up into the distance and saw a seemingly ordinary crow circling high in the sky. Since everyone is already here, why not come up? Anyway, breaking into school without permission should be a common occurrence for you magicians, right? Yuan finished speaking. The pair of golden dragon eyes stared at the crow calmly, and the terrible pressure caused the crow to explode in an instant, turning into black spots of curse and dissipating. On the roof of a building about a kilometer away from the university. Under the long white hair that covered her eyes, Ming Ming's eyes were trembling slightly, and her whole body tensed subconsciously. Unbelievable, just an eye. It actually gave me an irresistible thought, and I subconsciously stopped the technique immediately. Ming Ming said softly. This guy is simply scarier than expected. No wonder Gojo Satoru paid such a high price. But since they all took other people's money. So no matter what, you shouldn't give up easily. But her instinct told her that it was best not to explore any of the boy's secrets, otherwise she would be dead. At this time, Ming Ming hesitated for a moment, then walked honestly. It doesn't take a moment. Ming Ming's figure came to the rooftop alone. Miss Ming Ming, good afternoon. Yuan glanced at the tall Ming Ming and said with a chuckle. Well, good afternoon. Ming Ming stood on the platform. Only when she faced the dragon eyes face to face did she realize how terrifying this oppressive force was. This kind of pressure. It's simply beyond the reach of human beings. The boy in front of him is undoubtedly a complete monster. Gojo Satoru asked me to come. By the way, the Magic College also wants to know your thoughts on the current arrangement, and I hope it didn't offend you. And about your attitude next. Ming Ming immediately chose to follow his heart. He directly explained the task assigned to him by Gojo Satoru. By the way, I sold this guy Gojo Satoru directly. Since that guy is so curious, let him do it himself. Yuan yawned after hearing this. It doesn't matter. Whatever they do doesn't matter to me. As long as you don't disturb my meeting with Tianyuan from now on. Anyway, it's not long before the magic disappears. No matter what these people in the magic world do, in his opinion, it is just for their own entertainment. After hearing this, Ming Ming relaxed a lot. She smiled under the pressure and picked up the hair beside her ears with her fingers, revealing her fair and smooth neck. Jun Yuan, in this case, I wonder if I can have a chat with you. I heard that the Pangxing sect under your command seems to be busy. It should be short of manpower now, right? I wonder, do you have any ideas about hiring me? Ming Ming blinked. What she said was not groundless. But the current Pangxing sect is too rich? For a money-oriented person like Ming Ming, the Pangxing sect, which is sponsored by the Sigong family, can be said to be a big dog through and through. Now that there is an opportunity to hook up, naturally I can't let it go easily. P.S. This time, instead of asking for flowers or monthly tickets, Shen Jun paid tribute to teacher Akira Toriyama. What has passed away is not only an old person, but also a piece of childhood. Thank you readers for your support. Chapter 114. Hear this. At this moment, Yuan couldn't help but look at Ming Ming a few more times. He didn't expect that the other party would be so understanding. He offered to help before he said anything. As for the reward, in his eyes, it was just a drop in the bucket. Okay, if Miss Ming Ming is willing, then of course it is possible. I will take charge of this matter later. Exchange contact information. At that time, I will let the Shinomiya family transfer the money directly to your account. You will definitely be satisfied with the remuneration. Yuan smiled. The dragon eyes in his eyes returned to their original appearance. The development of Pangxing cult is part of the plan. Since it can be accelerated, it must be accelerated. After all, after the drastic changes in the world, the credibility of the Pangxing sect will also replace the government. Looking at Yuan Ming Ming, her beautiful eyes narrowed with satisfaction. It's Mr. Yuan after all. Not only is he powerful, he is also bold and generous. The Shinomiya family, their family is too rich. These capitalists can make money much more easily than magicians. At least they don't have to work hard. Ming Ming stretched his waist. She brushed her hair behind her with one hand. He looked at the young man in front of him seriously, feeling not only emotional in his heart. Being even more powerful than Gojo Satoru is undoubtedly the most powerful being in the world today, even that mountain. I'm afraid they were all destroyed by the other party. If he wants to. It was enough to easily completely rewrite the world of magic in 173 overnight. Not to mention the Shinomiya family, at that time even the Neon officials would have no choice but to obey each other honestly. When Ming meditated here, I couldn't help but be curious. She lightly opened her lips and said, Mr. Yuan, what is your purpose of promoting Pangxing cult? The entire church is useless to you, right? Pangxing sect is, in the final analysis, nothing more than an organization. If you want support, you can ask for as much support as you want. Rather than starting from scratch to promote power, why not just make the official people obey from the beginning? After Yuan demonstrated capabilities comparable to nuclear weapons. No matter what choice you make, I'm afraid the official government can only obey it honestly. What I desire is not something that comes with 3 melons and 2 dates. Yuan seemed to have read through her inner thoughts and said unceremoniously, you should know after a while. My goal is to take over the world. After the words fell, Ming Ming's expression suddenly changed at this moment. But anything that can be named after the world will probably not be a trivial matter. What exactly is it going to do? She couldn't help but feel excited. It seems that both the government and the magic world have underestimated your ambition, Mr. Yuan. Don't worry, I will never reveal my employer's information. Ming Ming said in a serious tone. No matter how the world changes in the future, as long as it doesn't endanger her freedom, it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt to reveal it. The future has already been decided. Yuan said calmly. Under the gaze of his all-knowing and all-powerful star, the future of the world has already been determined at this time. He suddenly changed his tone. Miss Ming Ming, you should be fine too. How about the two of us go have a cup of coffee and some cakes to relax? Conjuration College. Gojo Satoru had just solved a large number of proliferating curse spirits, sat down on the chair in the office, and breathed out softly. Call. Damn it, something happened in the North Pole. These chaos were directly added together, causing the curse spirit to grow rapidly. It's true that misfortunes never come singly. Gojo Satoru complained angrily. It seemed that the government had finally controlled the situation. As a result, Yuan's blow yesterday was forgotten. This time, The sudden meteorite fall in the Arctic is simply inexplicable. However, it is said that there are other hidden reasons behind this matter, but Gojo Satoru is not interested in these things. After all, millions of square kilometers of sea ice have evaporated. Just think about it. You can realize how much impact it will bring. It is said that compared with Neon, those places closer to the North Pole are the ones facing real floods. Fortunately, the coastal populations in those cities are relatively small to begin with. Even evacuation was relatively easy. Boom. Suddenly, the office door was pushed open. Noksua Masamichi, who was wearing a high school uniform, walked straight into the room. Gojo Satoru raised his eyebrows when he saw this and was about to say something, but was directly interrupted by Nokshua's righteous path. Wait a minute. Satoru. Xiaoyu suddenly appeared. As soon as he finished speaking, Gojo Satoru was stunned. Summer oil? There is only one person who can be called such by Noksua Gendeo. That is his only close friend Xiaoyuja. But the other party had died directly in his hands a year ago. How could he appear again? Did you see the wrong person? Xiaoyu has been dead for a long time. I can see it with my own eyes. Gojo Satoru retorted without hesitation. Although he did not crush Xiaoyu to ashes, the other party had already lost the breath of life, so how could he still be alive? And responded to his. But it was the mobile phone that Noksua Gendeo took out. A video is playing. In the video, Xiaoyuja is wearing the familiar 5-striped cassock, communicating with the reporters holding microphones in a gentle manner. There was a smile on his face. It seems to have a sense of intimacy that makes people feel like spring breeze. Gojo Satoru stared at the picture in the video. I can't believe this would happen. Noksua opened his mouth and said. I also know you don't believe it. But Xiaoyuja's figure did appear. He said in a serious tone. Could it be that Xiaoyu really came back from the dead? But he had never heard of such a thing. As for Gojo Satoru, he had no doubts. Since the other party said that he killed it with his own hands, he must have done so. Where did you see him? Gojo Satoru came back to his senses and asked immediately. His face was slightly distorted and he looked extremely excited. If Xiaoyuja is really resurrected, then he must have a good exchange with his close friends. But when he looked at Xiaoyuja in the video, he always felt that there was something elusive and weird about him. Therefore, you must see it with your own eyes. The news was broadcast this afternoon. Xiaoyuja suddenly transformed into a cadre belonging to the Pangxing sect. Well, you guessed it right, it's Yuan's Pangxing sect. Currently, he is responsible for dealing with the cursed spirits in coastal areas and directing disaster relief personnel, etc. He accepted a news interview in the afternoon. Noksua said helplessly. To be honest, he didn't want Gojo Satoru to see Xiaoyuja. No one knows whether this is the real Xiaoyuja, but the other person does belong to Yuan. What if Gojo Satoru causes any conflict? That's for the Conjuration College. There is no doubt that it will be a real disaster. Gojo Satoru also fell into silence after hearing this. After a while, his blue eyes became firm, and his tone was serious. I will personally go to the coastal area he is responsible for. At least meet him in person anyway. Since his long-lost best friend has come back again, he must go there to support him. Oh, okay, just be careful. Remember not to directly cause a conflict. It will not be of any benefit to the spell specialist. Noksua sighed. He then said with a serious expression. Even if he knew that Gojo Satoru would not be obedient, at least he had to make him not to offend Yuan. I know. Gojo Satoru nodded seriously. He naturally knew that even if his strength increased 10 times, he would never be Yuan's opponent. So this time, I just wanted to see what Xiaoyuja was up to. Okay, go ahead. Noksua was relieved when he saw this. Then, he allowed Gojo Satoru to disappear directly in front of him. Then he clicked on his phone and fell into silence. About yesterday. He wanted to know more about the changes in the entire Arctic than Gojo Satoru. An existence that can be called a world-destroying disaster, could it just stand behind that young man? https://fictionzone.net/novel/in the world of anime sign into the king's treasure at the start. In the world of anime, sign into the king's treasure at the start. After being hit by a dump truck, Yuan found himself in the world of comprehensive comics. And the corresponding sign-in system has also been awakened. As long as you continue to accumulate the number of sign-in days, you can sign in and get different good things. But he originally thought that at this time, he would be in the ordinary world. But not until he obtained the king's treasure queen and the omniscient and almighty star queen. Only then did I discover the secrets hidden behind this world. Curses, spellcasters, superpowers, etc. And Ye Yuan relied on Wang's Haibao's money-making ability and sign-in to continuously improve his strength. The number of beautiful girls surrounding him also gradually increased. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.